Fang Chen was even more shocked. A bodhisattva actually sent him a congratulatory gift. The gift suddenly felt like a burning coal in his hands. He wasn't sure he dared to touch anything from that bodhisattva. Lately, Fang Chen had been shamelessly leveraging the bodhisattva's name to great effect. The bodhisattva suddenly sending a Kesaya, was it a move to recruit him? The bodhisattva went to great lengths. Our pavilion master will surely love it. I'll pass it on to him shortly. The corners of the high monks' mouths twitched slightly. The refined Vajraphayan chuckled softly. Benefactor Fang, this Kesaya was worn by the bodhisattva. It possesses the power to repel enemies and subdue demons. Upon hearing this, Fang Chen immediately tucked it away into his heavenly thunder stone. It seemed Vajraphayan truly understood Fang Chen best. Ruxu, please lead the masters inside. Liu Ruxu felt a pang of emotion. She had once thought Fang Chen and White Horse Temple would become mortal enemies, yet their current relationship was surprisingly amicable. She only hoped they had given up on trying to convert him. She then graciously invited them inside. Tong Fei immediately felt the pressure lift. When he looked at Fang Chen again, he no longer dared to underestimate him. How many people in the entire Taking Grand Province received a personal gift from a bodhisattva? Just then, another faint presence emanated from the horizon. It was a distinguished middle-aged man, arriving alone on a cloud. It was none other than the Pavilion Master of the Supreme Rivers and Mountains Tower. What are you doing here? I didn't pay you to be a shill, Fang Chen said with disdain. That guy who charged for every word wouldn't show up to support him for free. The Pavilion Master smiled faintly, surveying the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion as he spoke. Worthless sects can invite me, and I won't come. Valuable sects don't need to invite me. I'll come on my own. Heavenly Secrets Pavilion has great potential. I believe it will be an important client for my Supreme Rivers and Mountains Tower in the future. So, dropping by to offer congratulations and forge a connection or two isn't too much to ask, is it? Only then did Fang Chen relax. Just don't charge me money, he said. Mingzhu, please lead the Pavilion Master inside. Tong Fei was already starting to feel numb. 2 leaders from the 3 divine sects and 7 great cults had personally arrived. Wasn't Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's display a bit too grand? Not long after, another lone figure arrived, Master Qian. He cupped his hands and smiled. Congratulations, fellow Taoist Fang. Thank you for looking after Yu Po, and thank you for bringing back the Golden Flood Dragon shears from the Deity Transformation Ruins. The loss of the Golden Flood Dragon shears had left him utterly distraught these past few days. Fortunately, Fang Chen, despite acquiring them, hadn't pocketed them, returning them through Yu Po. It was a huge help. Just a small congratulatory gift, please. Don't be offended. He produced a piece of paper covered in imprinted runes. I heard from King that you possess a soul artifact, which likely requires a certain level of soul power cultivation. Correct. These are texts I requested RC and Pavilion Master to transcribe from his Jade Paper Heavenly Book. They should be of some assistance to you. Jade Paper Heavenly Book. Fang Chen was ecstatic. He quickly cupped his hands. Master Qian, you've done me a great service. I won't stand on ceremony. He already possessed the contents of 4 Jade Paper Heavenly Book pages with this brand. New edition, it would be enough to cultivate his soul to the Five-Aperture Nascent Soul realm. When facing 6, Aperture or 7, Aperture Nascent Soul experts, he wouldn't be as hard pressed as he was in his previous battle against the Mount Sanking expert. Qingxian, quickly invite fellow Taoist Qian to take a seat. Just as Liu Qingxian was about to lead Master Qi, in a way, a clear, youthful laugh echoed from the horizon. Old friends part by rivers and seas, separated by mountains for ages. Junior sister Liu, it's been a long time. A spirit, boat Dharma artifact, soared through the air, and standing on its deck was none other than Giant Linyuan. Fang Chen looked up, a smile spreading across his face. Senior brother Giant, what brings you here? Giant Linyuan descended, cupping his hands with a laugh. Let me accept that senior brother won last time. From now on, don't call me that it's too much of an honor. Now you are a king, suppressing all the heavens chosen of the 3 divine sects and 7 great cults. I ought to address you as senior instead. A hint of melancholy tinged his words. He had originally thought that after returning to the Giant family with their formidable backing, his destiny would gradually diverge from Fang Chen's. He never imagined he would fail his crossing the tribulation, while Fang Chen succeeded and rose to fame with a single battle at the Fire Worship Cult's Martial Dao Arena. In a sense, their destinies had diverged, but in a way completely opposite to what he'd expected. Fang Chen, noticing his friends failed crossing the tribulation, patted his shoulder comfortingly. "Don't worry, the giant family has deep reserves. You won't lack for fortuitous opportunities. Your turn will come again soon." Giant Linyuan smiled helplessly. "It's not that easy. The giant family isn't just me waiting to cross the tribulation. He earned that tribulation opportunity through years of undercover work in the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Who knows when the next chance will come?" Liu Qingxian comforted him. "That's right, senior brother Jian, you're still young. You'll have plenty of opportunities." It was just a casual comfort, and Jian Linyuan hadn't paid it much mind. But when he glanced at Liu Qingxian and realized she had also succeeded in crossing the tribulation, his mood instantly soured. You succeeded in crossing the tribulation too." Liu Qingxian bloomed into a smile, hugging Fang Chen's arm. "My husband helped me." Jian Linyuan's heart turned to ice. Going back to the giant family was clearly worse than just sticking with Fang Chen. He said enviously, "Junior sister Liu, you truly have a great fortuitous opportunity." Liu Qingxian continued to comfort him. "I'm nothing special, really. Liu Ruxu and Yu Mingju have also succeeded in crossing the tribulation. Even the former Demon King Heimei and consort Yunxia have broken through to the Two-Aperture Demon Emperor realm. Xia Keoj and Liang Feiyan have already secured their own tribulation opportunities and should be crossing the tribulation soon too. So, don't rush, senior brother Jian, what's meant for you?" "Junior sister Liu, stop talking." Jian Linyuan couldn't take it anymore. He had come happily to offer congratulations, only to be mercilessly twisted the knife again and again. He's fine now, stop comforting him. The more you do, the worse he feels. Fang Chen chuckled wryly. "Qingxian, why don't you show them to their seats? I'm waiting for our last two guests." Soon Fairy Qianlin and Perfected Yunhuo arrived. Fang Chen offered a warm smile. "Seniors, you've worked hard to get here." Everyone else was merely a guest of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, but these two were veterans of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, which carried a different weight. Naturally, Fang Chen had to receive them personally. Perfected Yunhuo stopped Fang Chen, pulling out a spatial storage artifact. "A senior asked me to give this to you." It was from that mysterious red-faced old man. Fang Chen took the storage artifact and couldn't help but be secretly astonished. It contained 3 low-grade spirit artifacts. Even among the nascent soul experts of the 3 spirits sect and the 7 great cults, only a select few possessed low-grade spirit artifacts. As for mid-grade spirit artifacts, only powerhouses in the late nascent soul stage could wield them. The value of 3 low-grade spirit artifacts was self-evident. Fairy Qianlin glared at him enviously. "I never would have guessed, you little rascal who only ever irritates me, that you could have such a honeyed tongue, making that senior so incredibly happy." In all his years with the fire worship cult, she'd never seen him give anything to anyone. And here you are, snagging 3 low-grade spirit artifacts for free. Fang Chen said sincerely, "Fellow Taoist Qianlin, since you are our Pavilion Master's senior sister, you naturally get one of these 3 spiritual artifacts. Go on, pick one." He handed over the spatial storage artifact. "What?" Fairy Qianlin was overjoyed. "Really?" She reached out to take the spatial storage artifact, but Fang Chen pulled his hand back, laughing. "Of course not. It's fake." Fairy Qianlin froze, then stomped her foot in anger. "You're deliberately trying to provoke me again. I'll cleave you in 2. Clang, she drew a 40-meter long greatsword. Fang Chen's eyelid twitched. "Why is your sword so long?" Fairy Qianlin snarled. "It's custom, made just for you. I'll even give you a 39-meter head start." "Oh, hell no." Fang Chen immediately activated Shadow in the Clouds and fled. Fairy Qianlin roared with fury and chased after him. Perfected Yunhuo followed them inside, a wry smile on his face. Finally, only Tong Fei remained by the sect gate tower, ignored by everyone, his face flushed alternately red and green. He huffed under his breath. "It's just a grand sect, founding ceremony, anyway. If I don't go, I don't go. It's not like I'm missing out on some grand fortune, right?" Fang Chen ran all the way to the steps of the plaza, calling out to the rapidly approaching fellow Taoist Qianlin. "Stop right there, fellow Taoist Qianlin. The guests have arrived. Don't lose your composure." Fairy Qianlin snorted angrily. "Where would your Heavenly Secrets Pavilion get any other guests? Still want me to stop? I'm going to cleave you today no matter what." She leapt onto the steps, only then realizing that the hall was filled with people on both sides. 1,000. Man Commander Bai Xin of the Directorate of Astronomy. Adept Sankhyan of the Sanctuary of Myriad Tribulations, the Lord of the Five Divisions, Abbot Vajraphayan, and a host of other eminent monks from White Horse Temple. The Pavilion, Master of the Jiangshan, Yipin Pavilion, Master Qiyin of End Pavilion. Almost all prominent figures from the Taking Grand Province, whom she would have to address as senior. They all collectively stared at Fairy Kainlin, who was holding a 40-meter long greatsword with peculiar looks on their faces. Fairy Kainlin quickly put away her sword, tidied her disheveled hair, and sheepishly cupped her fist in salute. This junior was just joking with Fang Chen. I'm not usually so fierce, really. The master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion chuckled wryly. Senior sister, senior brother, please take your seats quickly. Fairy Kainlin shot Fang Chen a fierce glare, then, blushing, chose a seat at the very end of the hall. Perfected Yunhuo also sat down nervously beside her, gazing at the hall full of the era's strongest cultivators, and for a moment he was lost in profound shock. Was this truly the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion that had fallen into decline, the one no one was willing to shoulder anymore? Even centuries ago, during the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's golden age, it couldn't have been more magnificent than this. Watching Yun Tianju preside over the Grand Sect, founding ceremony, radiating such high spirits and boundless energy. Feeling the vibrant, surging life force of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, Fairy Kainlin's eyes grew slightly red. She murmured softly, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion has been reborn. Perfected Yunhuo's eyes also welled up. He forced back his tears, his voice choked with emotion. Old Pavilion Master, you can rest in peace now. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion is in good hands. Just then, a figure strolled up to them. It was Fang Chen. He held a small saucer filled with thumb-sized crystal, clear fruits. Fellow Taoist Kainlin, fellow Taoist Yunhuo, you've had a long and exhausting journey. Have one of these to take the edge off. Fairy Kainlin rolled her eyes at him, glancing at the bean, like fruits with clear disdain. Still, not wanting to make a scene in front of the VIPs, she politely picked one up. Perfected Yunhuo also took one, looking perplexed. He sent her a quiet telepathic message. Junior sister, what on earth is this? Fairy Kainlin scoffed. Since when does this little scoundrel hand out anything good? Here, take mine too. Eat them both, if you aren't afraid of being poisoned. She shoved her fruit into Perfected Yunhuo's hand. But right at that moment, a shocked gasp echoed out, a dragon marrow seed. Adept Sankhyan was stunned. Isn't this a divine treasure that went extinct ages ago? For anyone at or below the mid-stage nascent soul realm, it has the mind-bending effect of instantly breaking them through to the next level. What? The vast majority of the crowd had never seen a dragon marrow seed, but they had absolutely heard the legends. No one could have ever anticipated that a newly established, small sect would casually whip out such a divine treasure just to treat their guests. In an instant, everyone's eyes blazed with ravenous desire. Fairy Kainlin froze. That little scoundrel had actually handed her a dragon marrow seed. Didn't that mean she could immediately break through to the third tier of the nascent soul realm? She frantically looked back for her seed, only to see Perfected Yunhuo clenching his fist tight and swiftly pocketing both dragon marrow seeds into his robes. Junior sister, a promise is a promise. Since you gave it to me, both of them are mine now. Fairy Kainlin glared daggers at him. Then how about I custom? Order a 40-foot broadsword to hack you in half. Do you want that too? Perfected Yunhuo's mouth twitched. He obediently handed it back. Beaming with joy, Fairy Kainlin cradled her dragon marrow seed. I suppose that little scoundrel still has a shred of conscience left. As Fang Chen handed them out one by one, the guests were all smiles. This wasn't just a congratulatory visit, it was a straight-up fortuitous opportunity. Both hosts and guests were absolutely thrilled. The master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion burned incense in prayer. After announcing the sect rules, personnel appointments, and future plans, he bowed to the heavens. As of today, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion of Green Lime Mountain is officially established. The gathered VIPs were filled with awe. It was incredibly rare in the entire Taking Grand Province for a single sect's grand sect, founding ceremony to attract so many powerhouses from elite factions to offer their congratulations. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion had a limitless future. Right at that moment, everyone's identity token buzzed simultaneously, even the brand new command tokens just distributed to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion members. They checked their tokens. It was a mass broadcast from the Directorate of Astronomy, notifying every single sect within the Taking Grand Province. Sky-touching black pillar reconnaissance notice scouting by the Venerables and Bodhisattvas has failed. A secondary reconnaissance operation will commence in 10 days. Every sect must dispatch one expert at the nascent soul realm to assemble before the sky-touching black pillar in 10 days. First place in contributions will be rewarded with a custom, forged, high-grade spiritual artifact. Second place a mid-grade spirit artifact. Third place fragments of a heaven-tier cultivation method. The moment the news dropped, the entire venue erupted in an uproar. Fang Chen's expression darkened slightly, though he wasn't entirely surprised. Considering the miserable fate that befell Venerable Mantra, it was obvious the scouting mission at the sky-touching Black Pillar had gone terribly wrong. A secondary reconnaissance mission was inevitable. The only thing that caught him off guard was how ridiculously tempting the rewards were. A custom, forged high-grade spiritual artifact. Didn't that mean his sword array finally had a glimmer of hope? Upon receiving the alert, the powerhouses from the various sects grew visibly burdened with concern. As soon as the banquet concluded, they took their leave one by one, rushing back to make their respective arrangements. Giant Linyuan gripped his dragon marrow seed, feeling totally unworthy of such a gift. Senior Fang, you must be the undisputed candidate to represent the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, right? Fang Chen nodded. I have far more survival cards up my sleeve. For an operation this deadly, I'm the best fit. Scouting the movements of the ancient giants was a matter of life and death for the entire taking Grand Province. He had no intention of backing down. Besides, they were offering exactly the reward he needed. Giant Linyuan said, then come to the giant family estate as soon as possible. We possess techniques to conceal your aura, which might just save your life on the sky-touching Black Pillar. My previous offer for you to study and train with the giant family still stands. Fang Chen's eyes lit up. I'll definitely pay your estate a visit before I set off. After seeing off Giant Linyuan, Fang Chen went to greet Abbot Puguang. Benefactor Fang, you must be extremely careful on your journey to the sky-touching Black Pillar. Make good use of the kasaya the Bodhisattva gifted you. It might just turn impending doom into a blessing. A wave of realization hit Fang Chen. No wonder the Bodhisattva had suddenly gifted him a kasaya. He had foreseen this second reconnaissance mission all along, and knew exactly that Fang Chen would be going. To prevent Fang Chen from dying on the sky-touching Black Pillar and leaving no one capable of moving it, he had sent this life-saving kasaya. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Fang Chen replied, please thank the Bodhisattva for his concern. Soon after, Master Qian, Fairy Kainlin, and Master Hoyan took their leave one by one. Next were the representatives from the Sanctuary of Myriad Tribulations. Given the majestic display at the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's Grand Sect founding ceremony today, petty rival sects wouldn't dare cause trouble anymore, rendering their roles as guest elders largely ceremonial. Still, Fang Chen warmly invited them to serve as guest elders and gifted each of them partial insights into the shadow in the clouds technique. Finally, it was Man Commander Bai Zin's turn. When the time comes, I'll be going too. I will protect you, she said. With a brief nod, she departed. Fang Chen smiled knowingly. Man Commander Bai Zin had a cold exterior but a warm heart, just as always. Having a powerful and trustworthy companion for this journey was a huge relief. It would definitely make things a lot safer. Outside the mountain gates, Tong Fei waited with deep impatience until Baekson and the others finally emerged. What took you so long? Did the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion pamper you with such rare treasures that you couldn't bear to leave? Baekson completely ignored him. Huang Ying, however, wasn't about to pass up a chance to rub it in. She smugly whipped out her dragon marrow seed, giving it a playful shake. Know what this is? She asked with a cheeky grin. Tong Fei cast a sideways glance at it, his expression shifting slightly. Although he couldn't identify the item, the pure, concentrated energy radiating from it told him it was no ordinary object. Yet he kept up his stubborn front. What does that have to do with me? Huang Ying's smile widened. It has everything to do with you. This is a dragon marrow seed. It's a mythical artifact that can help someone even in the mid-stage nascent soul realm break through to the next cultivation realm. Tusk, what a shame. You could have broken through to the Five-Aperture Nascent Soul, but because you skipped the Grand Sect founding ceremony, you completely missed out. What? A dragon marrow seed? Tong Fei blurted out, utterly shocked. A massive wave of regret washed over him. He couldn't believe the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was just handing out such insane treasures at their Grand Sect founding ceremony. When the Grand Libationer explicitly ordered him to attend the ceremony, it hadn't been to punish him at all. It was practically delivering him a fortuitous opportunity. But he had reached the very doorstep and refused to walk in. Gritting his teeth, he fired back stubbornly. It's not like everyone gets one. I wouldn't have gotten it even if I went. Huang Ying's grin grew even more wicked. Nope, literally everyone got one. Even 100-man Commander Yang got one. Actually wait, once he uses it to break through to the Five-Aperture Nascent Soul, he'll be 1,000-man Commander Yang, standing right on your level. Oh my, everyone got one but you. Ha ha ha. Baeksun pulled her away, leaving Tong Fei rooted to the spot with a sickeningly pale expression. Yang Yuntao asked carefully, 1,000-man Commander Tong, are you all right? Boiling with humiliation and rage, Tong Fei snapped, why didn't you try harder to convince me earlier? Skipping the ceremony was an absolutely colossal loss. Yang Yuntao was speechless. Fang Chen had personally greeted him, yet Tong Fei had acted like an arrogant prick and completely ignored the man. How was anyone supposed to convince him after that? You offend the exact people you shouldn't, so you absolutely deserve to miss out on the dragon marrow seed. Back inside the sect, the master of the heavenly secret pavilion wore a bitter smile. The Grand Libationer specifically waited for our heavenly secrets pavilion to be formally established before announcing the news. There aren't that many coincidences in this world, let alone one time down to the very second. The moment he announced the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's founding, the mission immediately dropped. It was incredibly hard to believe this wasn't done on purpose. Fang Chen grumbled in annoyance. It's probably because I know a bit of the Hell Realm script. The Grand Libationer has his eyes on my abilities and wants me up there too. These old fogies, every single one of them, is a scheming fox. The master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion mused. Even a Venerable failed this mission. Sending a group of you in the nascent soul realm up there is practically a suicide run. But the Directorate of Astronomy is still sending you. I imagine they must have some method to guarantee your safety. So while the danger is immense, it's not a guaranteed death sentence. Fang Chen nodded. He had arrived at the exact same conclusion. If it really was certain death, what was the point of the Directorate of Astronomy sending them up? Wouldn't it be far more beneficial to preserve over 100 capable nascent soul realm experts to fight the ancient giants in the future? The danger was definitely astronomical. Running into just a single ancient giant would be more than they could handle. He took a deep breath and declared, for the next 10 days, I need to boost my power as much as humanly possible. Everyone in the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion needs to boost their combat power, and fast. We only have 2 months left before the ancient giants descend. Master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion, please take these and distribute them. He pulled out Xuanzing's black blade, along with the 3 low-grade spirit artifacts gifted by the red-faced elder of the fire worship cult. He already had a soul-attacking magical artifact. Having another wouldn't do him much good, so he might as well leave it for the disciples. Those 3 low-grade spirit artifacts would give their members an immediate power spike. As for Xuanzing's spatial storage artifact, he immediately pulled out the nether soul crystal from within. Inside, Hua Xin was huddled in a corner, crying softly. She was completely paralyzed by the terrifying presence of 3 7-aperture and 8-aperture nascent soul level souls. And honestly, who wouldn't be terrified when cornered by 3 hulking men? Seeing Fang Chen, she looked at him like he was her savior. Fang Chen, make them leave. Are you trying to get me killed? Fang Chen merely smiled. So, are we finally ready to study the Hell Realm script? Back at the fire worship cult, this woman had promised the world, only to go back on her word the second she was safe. Hua Xin nodded frantically. I'll teach you. I'll really teach you this time. Fang Chen casually pulled out the souls of Chuan Yi and the sect leader of Sanking Mountain. Ignoring their agonizing screams, he ruthlessly smashed them into the fate-altering jade butterfly. Next, he brought out a drop of soul transformation blood. The fate-altering jade butterfly trembled slightly, and a drop of milky, white liquid dripped from its core. The aura radiating from this drop of heaven, reaching marrow, was vastly more potent than the last one. He carefully bottled it up, then turned his gaze back to Xuanzing, who was trembling in terror inside the nether soul crystal. He chuckled, his tone playful. Don't panic, I'm not going to kill you just yet. Hell, once Mount Sanking is no longer a threat to me, I might even find you a vessel for body seizing so you can rebuild your cultivation. But that comes with 2 conditions. Just name them, fellow Taoist Fang. Xuanzing's soul replied, bowing deeply as if granted a royal pardon. First, starting today, your job is to make sure this woman actually teaches me the Hell Realm script. If she acts up, smack some sense into her. Xuanzing glanced at the frail Hua Xin cowering in the corner. He immediately patted his chest in reassurance. Don't worry, bullying women and reasoning with them, that's my specialty. Fang Chen nodded. Second, my Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was just founded. I'd like to borrow your resources. No objections, right? Without missing a beat, Xuan Xing spat out the unlocking incantation. His reasoning was simple. There wasn't anything in that storage artifact that Fang Chen desperately needed. It couldn't save his life. Refusing meant certain death, but coughing up the goods left him a sliver of hope. Fang Chen cracked it open and eagerly scanned the contents, only for his excitement to quickly fizzle out. Does Mount Sanking seriously only have one spirit concealment talisman? Xuan Xing's soul smiled bitterly. Fellow Taoist Fang, that talisman is forged from true spirit blood. Do you have any idea how insanely hard that is? We tried over 50 times, burning through more than half our true spirit blood, just to successfully craft a single one. We originally meant to gift it to Venerable Mantra, hoping she'd protect Mount Sanking when the ancient giants bring the apocalypse. I never expected it to fall into your hands, fellow Taoist. A hint of disappointment flashed across Fang Chen's face. He casually tossed the spatial storage artifact to the master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. Distribute the contents. I'm going into seclusion. He planned to push his soul cultivation to the Five-Aperture level before trying to refine that mysterious black cauldron. Soon he arrived at the secret chamber. Just as he was about to step inside, Zia Keoj quietly snuck up behind him. Marshal uncle. Fang Chen turned and eyed her suspicious demeanor. What are you sneaking around for? Trying to steal something or someone. Realizing how that sounded, he quickly caught himself and cleared his throat. What do you need? Zia Keoj stood with her hands behind her back, flashing a radiant smile. Didn't I tell you I had a gift for you for the grand sect? Founding ceremony. Close your eyes. No peeking. Fang Chen chuckled. Ooh, a surprise. How suspenseful. He closed his eyes and held out his hand, genuinely curious about what Zia Keoj had prepared for him. Zia Keoj waved a hand in front of his face to make sure his eyes were completely shut. Only then did she bring both hands forward, holding two distinct items. The first was a Thunder Evolution token, which contained the lost 6th volume of the Fangji Holy Palace Yin, Yang Heaven. The second was a small bucket of 5 colored spirit liquid, the exact mystical fluid needed to reconstruct the 5 magnet primal mountain. Staring at the Thunder Evolution token in her palm, her cheeks flushed with a rosy hue. If I give this to him, won't he figure out that I was the one peeping on him in the lightning pool? Remembering how Fang Chen had accidentally grabbed her chest during that encounter, she stuck out her tongue and quietly slipped the Thunder Evolution token back into hiding. Instead, she only placed the 5 colored spirit liquid into Fang Chen's waiting hands. All right, Marshal Uncle. Fang Chen opened his eyes. The moment he recognized what it was, a massive wave of pleasant surprise washed over him. Keoj, where on earth did you get this? Seeing Fang Chen's excitement made Zia Keoj smile, a sweet, indescribable joy bubbling in her chest. Is this enough for you, Marshal Uncle? If not, I'll figure out a way to get more. Sensing her reluctance to explain her methods, Fang Chen naturally didn't press the issue. He immediately grinned. It's plenty, more than enough, thanks Keoj. After a brief pause, Fang Chen said, Now it's your turn, close your eyes. You have something for me too, Marshal Uncle, Zia Keoj asked, her voice brimming with delight. She squeezed her eyes shut and held out her pale, delicate hand. Fang Chen gently placed the freshly condensed heaven, reaching marrow into her palm. Done. Zia Keoj opened her eyes and asked, puzzled, Senior Uncle, what is this? Fang Chen said, Your tribulation opportunity. I used this when I was crossing the tribulation, and it guarantees you a 100 breakthrough. Zia Keoj hadn't reacted much to the first part, but hearing the latter, her snowy eyes sparkled with surprise. Senior Uncle, you've only given this to me, right? Fang Chen nodded. Yes, Qin Zion and Mingzhu both used the heaven. Soaring pill. What, you don't want this one? Then I'll give it to Liang Feiyan first, and you can have a heaven. Soaring pill later. Zia Keoj hastily clutched it to her chest, stepping back. No, I want it. Of course I want it. I'll take anything Senior Uncle gives me. Then I won't disturb Senior Uncle. I'll take my leave now. Beaming with happiness, she hugged the heaven, reaching marrow, and ran off. Fang Chen smiled, shook his head, and entered the secret chamber. But he didn't immediately begin his cultivation. Instead, he habitually checked the secret chamber's condition first. Although this was the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, it never hurts to be extra careful. What made his eyes narrow was that his routine check actually uncovered something unusual. In the corner of the secret chamber, there was a drop of fresh blood. This was a brand new secret chamber, unused by anyone. Where did the blood come from? Who's there? Fang Chen demanded quietly. Lightning gathered in his eyes, his dark heaven eye primed for action. Heh heh, a familiar, aged chuckle drifted from the corner. You're still as cautious as ever. As space rippled, a youthful faced elder with hair white as snow appeared in the corner, holding a horsetail whisk. Only he was injured. Fresh blood continuously flowed from his abdomen, unable to be stopped. And this elder was no stranger to Fang Chen. It was Reverend Green Crane, or more accurately, Reverend of 6 Daos. Old man, sneaking around like that, aren't you afraid I'll accidentally kill you? Fang Chen teased with a grin, a strange happiness welling up in his heart. Reverend of 6 Daos was the first elder to guide him in his life, even though it was with the intention of bodies seizing him. But he had indeed given Fang Chen much help. The two were a mix of rivals and allies. Reverend of 6 Daos grinned maliciously. Only just gotten a few good meals in, and you think you can kill me? Cough, cough, cough. He suddenly coughed up several mouthfuls of fresh blood. Fang Chen's expression shifted slightly. He immediately took out a rejuvenation pill. How did you get injured? Reverend of 6 Daos waved his hand, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. No need. I haven't even finished the rejuvenation pills you gave me last time. This injury was caused by a true spirit fang. Ordinary medicinal pills are useless. I'll recover with time and rest. A true spirit fang? Fang Chen was greatly surprised. What did you encounter? How could you be injured by a true spirit fang? Reverend of 6 Daos didn't answer. Instead, he took an aged jade vial from his robes. Inside the vial were 2 wisps of golden blood. Even through the jade vial, Fang Chen could feel the immense, surging power within. He was startled. True spirit blood? You snatched this from Mount Sanking? The only known true spirit blood on the continent was located at Mount Sanking. Reverend of 6 Daos leaned weakly against the wall, casually tossing the jade vial to Fang Chen. He grinned. A gift for you, satisfied. Fang Chen caught it in one swift motion, a storm of indescribable emotions churning within him. Reverend of 6 Daos knew he needed true spirit blood, so he risked life and limb to snatch this item from Mount Sanking, just to give it to him as a congratulatory gift on the day of his grand sect founding ceremony. His voice was a little hoarse. Old geezer, why are you so good to me? You're a wanted criminal of the Directorate of Astronomy. Be careful, I might turn in your head for a reward. Reverend of 6 Daos chuckled. You're a wanted criminal of Venerable Heart-Bane. Come on, let's hurt each other, then. Fang Chen held the true spirit blood, his heart feeling heavy. After a long moment, he sighed. I owe you a favor. Oh, right. How did you get the true spirit blood? The sect leader of Sanking Mountain may be dead, but their 8 Aperture Nascent Souls and 9 Aperture Nascent Souls are all still there. They are Mount Sanking's most terrifying power. For outsiders to force their way in, it's simply unrealistic. Reverend of 6 Daos replied casually, thanks to their internal strife. They apparently lost someone important quite suddenly, and the entire sect was thrown into chaos. I then slipped into the Forbidden Grounds and took a vial of true spirit blood. Fang Chen understood perfectly it was the chaos triggered by the death of the sect leader of Sanking Mountain. So, you were discovered by their people. Reverend of 6 Daos gritted his teeth. Everything was going smoothly, but another imposter, just like me, sneaked in among them. He was too greedy and took all the true spirit blood. That commotion alerted an expert at the 8-Aperture Nascent Soul realm. The bastard escaped, but I was targeted. I nearly lost my life. Another imposter. Fang Chen's eyes narrowed. He recalled someone, the Hellish Desolate Beast. If he got the true spirit blood, wouldn't he be able to fully recover? But a portion of the true spirit blood should be enough for him. Why take all of it? Besides healing himself, what else could he need it for? Forget about him for now. Fang Chen looked at the profusely bleeding Reverend of 6 Daos and frowned. Are you really okay? Reverend of 6 Daos shook his head. I'm fine. I won't die yet. The true spirit fang contains a trace of poison. It just needs a little time to resolve itself. Enough about me. What about you? I heard that Venerable Heart-Bane is searching everywhere for anyone who recently finished crossing the tribulation. It's only a matter of time before he finds you. Do you have any countermeasures? Fang Chen's heart tightened. How can my void, flow lightning force hide from a soul transformation, Venerable? Reverend of 6 Daos frowned, silent, also worried for Fang Chen. At this rate, Fang Chen was doomed. If only you were a disciple of the great Yin sect, you could learn one of their divine abilities to store your power within a Yin corpse. That way, when Venerable Heart-Bane finds you, he won't detect any suspicious power within your body. Fang Chen's heart jolted. Such a divine ability exists. He glanced around. Can this divine ability be found in the black market? Reverend of Six Daos shook his head. Impossible. That's Venerable Evil Crow's unique technique. Who would dare sell his cultivation method? That's practically suicide. Outsiders have no chance. Fang Chen, however, looked thoughtful, a glint flashing in his eyes. I do have a way to get it. Reverend of Six Daos was puzzled. Even if Venerable Evil Crow disagrees, you can still force him to give it up. Fang Chen's eyes flickered. Exactly, I'll force it out of him. Reverend of Six Daos was stunned. Fang Chen could contend with a venerable now. He re-examined Fang Chen with an unfamiliar gaze. After a long moment, he let out a drawn-out sigh. That Junior Foundation establishment cultivator from back then has now grown into a heaven-propping giant I can't even see through. Fang Chen also looked him over. What cultivation realm have you recovered to now? Reverend of Six Daos chuckled. That's a secret. Fang Chen rolled his eyes at him, then took out the heaven-monitoring mirror and tossed it over. It's yours again. The two had once made a pact. Fang Chen would help him find the heaven-monitoring mirror, and Reverend of Six Daos would keep half of Reverend Green Crane's resources. Fang Chen no longer had any use for Reverend Green Crane's resources. But the heaven-monitoring mirror promised to Reverend of Six Daos still had to be returned as agreed. As Fang Chen faced increasingly powerful experts, the heaven-monitoring mirror's reflective attacks were no longer enough to save his life. For example, a soul transformation strike. Even if it could reflect 70% of the attack, the remaining 30% would still be enough to utterly obliterate him. Plus, Reverend of Six Daos had been good to him, so it was time to return it to its rightful owner. Reverend of Six Daos' eyes lit up. He quickly clutched it, then showed a strange expression. You didn't actually try to steal it. Did crossing the tribulation wash away your black heart with lightning? In that case, I have another favor to ask. Can you agree to it? Fang Chen snapped impatiently. Spit it out. Reverend of Six Daos chuckled sheepishly. Could you return the heart-reflecting ancient mirror to its rightful owner as well? Fang Chen pondered for a moment. Repeat your question from earlier. Could you return the heart-reflecting ancient mirror to its rightful owner and agree to my favor? No, Fang Chen flatly refused, his face darkening. You're pushing your luck. Reverend of Six Daos sighed helplessly. All right then, do you have any enemies? I'll deal with them for you, in exchange for you returning the heart-reflecting ancient mirror to me. How about that? Fang Chen looked puzzled. He couldn't remember the last time he'd used the heart-reflecting ancient mirror. At the nascent soul realm, this item was already quite ineffective. What do you need this for? He asked, taking out the heart-reflecting ancient mirror. Reverend of Six Daos was silent for a moment. To find my daughter. Fang Chen's expression turned serious. He had heard Reverend of Six Daos mention that his remnant soul persisted to this day because he still had something to accomplish. He never expected it to be searching for his daughter. Did your daughter go missing? Fang Chen asked tentatively. Reverend of Six Daos gazed at Fang Chen. A moment later, he spoke in a low, gravelly voice. She was taken. I brought her to Taking Grand Province for treatment, but someone caught me off guard. They wounded me and snatched her away. After that, I searched for her like a man possessed. Every sect, every power, every dark corner, I looked everywhere. I killed many during those years. I left a trail of blood in my wake. Some were good people, but most were monsters hiding behind the mask of renowned Orthodox sects, trafficking and violating women. But what righteous sect would ever admit to their own filth? Slowly, I became the fiend that everyone in Taking Grand Province cursed and condemned. In the end, I met my demise beneath the ancient capital of the 9 demon dynasties. Fang Chen was stunned. Who would have thought the notorious fiend, Reverend of Six Daos, had committed those slaughters just to find his daughter? Visibly moved, he asked, Are you even sure she's still alive? Reverend of Six Daos was already 70, when the Tiger Demon Emperor ambushed him. His remnant soul had then been hiding in the heart-reflecting ancient mirror for over 50 years. It had been more than 120 years in total. Unless his daughter had achieved the nascent soul realm, she would have died of old age long ago. Reverend of Six Daos shook his head. No, my daughter entered the nascent soul realm long ago. Unless she was killed, she should still have a few decades of life left. Fang Chen did the math. Even if they found her, she would be a century-old woman by now. He stopped pressing and tossed the heart-reflecting ancient mirror back to him. A century has passed, he said. Her appearance will have changed completely. Even if you stood face to face, you might not even recognize her. Reverend of Six Daos clutched the heart-reflecting ancient mirror and the heaven-monitoring mirror. That's exactly why I exhausted my soul to find these 2 magical artifacts. The heaven monitoring mirror allows me to scan thousands of miles, searching for a needle in a haystack. And the heart-reflecting ancient mirror lets me peer into her soul to confirm her identity. If I can just find her and know she's doing well, I can leave this world with no regrets. Fang Chen finally understood why Reverend of Six Daos had been causing trouble everywhere. He felt a flicker of sympathy. Does your daughter have any identifying marks? I can keep an eye out for her. A warmth spread through Reverend of Six Dao's chest. He was going to refuse. The world was vast, and the odds of Fang Chen finding her were slim to none. But sensing the boy's sincerity, he searched his memory. She was born with a black feather-shaped birthmark on her chest. It's permanent, nothing can erase it. Wait, if you Fang Chen's face went deadpan as a line of dark humor crossed his mind. Forget I asked, he interrupted. How was he supposed to check for that? Was he supposed to just stop every suspicious woman he met? Excuse me, miss, can you do me a favor? I need to see your chest. She'd probably give him the most polite, high-velocity slap of his life. Reverend of Six Daos rubbed his nose awkwardly. Fair point. And if you actually did find her that way, I'd probably have to beat you up myself. Fang Chen rolled his eyes. Get real. I have zero interest in the chest of 100-year-old lady. Go recover somewhere else. I need to get back to my cultivation. He immediately pulled out the 5-magnet primal mountain, the various rock fragments, and the barrel of 5-colored spirit liquid. Since Reverend of Six Daos already knew his secrets, there was no point in hiding them. Deep in the heart of Taking Grand Province, the ruins of a millennium ancient capital flickered within a vast, sea-like expanse of black mist. Several skeletons, their bones as smooth and polished as jade, were visible within the ruins. Centuries have passed, and still, no one can touch those Deity Transformation Realm remains. An aged voice drifted from the edge of the black mist. It was an old man riding a great azure ox. His clothes were tattered, his hair was a wild mess, and his face was covered in grime and sores. He reeked, looking for all the world like an old beggar. He picked up a pebble and tossed it into the mist. Instantly, the black mist surged to life, lunging at the pebble and dissolving it in a heartbeat. Even those seemingly lifeless Deity Transformation Realm skeletons twitched unnervingly. The old man stroked his beard. Calamity Sage really was a monster back in the day. 1,000 years after his death, his land of demise remains the foremost ominous land of Tai Keng Grand Prefecture. To this day, no one can conquer it. A shame about his divine steel of misfortune. No one has been able to claim it. Mid-lament, he suddenly turned his head as if sensing something. A knowing smirk played on his lips. A certain frantic venerable has arrived. No sooner had he spoken than a gaunt old man in black robes appeared, a divine halo shimmering behind his head. He gave a wry smile. I'm sorry you have to see me in such a state, old man Tianji. I, Heart-Bane, humbly request your assistance. The newcomer was none other than Venerable Heart-Bane. Looking for that void flow lightning force user, are you? Old man Tianji scratched his scalp, digging out a fingernail's worth of grime. Venerable Heart-Bane's eyelid twitched. He took a subtle step back. Old man Tianji is as divine a seer as they say. Old man Tianji curled his lip, revealing a mouth missing a front tooth. Divination, please. You've been scouring all of Taking Grand Province for a void flow lightning force user. Even a 3-year-old knows about it. Venerable Heart-Bane looked slightly embarrassed. That cultivator is a ghost. Finding him has proven difficult. I'm swallowing my pride today. I need you to find him. Tell me where he is. Old man Tianji tilted his head, a playful glint in his eyes. And what if I refuse? Venerable Heart-Bane's gaze grew profound, a thin smile playing on his lips. Since you claim to know everything under the sun, you must have known I'd come looking for you. The fact that you're still here means you were waiting for me. Just tell me your price, and I'll pay it. Old man Tianji chuckled, making no effort to deny it. With his ability to be intercepting heavenly secrets, no one could find him unless he wanted to be found. Old man Tianji didn't beat around the bush. He pointed toward the Millennium Ancient Capital. I need to go in there, but I'll need a Thunder Origin for protection. I trust you won't be stingy. A Thunder Origin, a Venerable Heart-Bane's expression darkened. Your appetite is far too large, don't you think? That was a gift from the young Emperor to help me survive the first celestial decay. How could I possibly just give it to you? He knew the old man would demand a steep price, but he hadn't expected him to go straight for his most prized possession. Old man Tianji scoffed. You think divination is easy? This is intercepting heavenly secrets. It's an act of defiance against the heavenly Tao. The backlash is brutal. Besides, helping you hunt down an innocent man is just helping a tyrant. That only makes the divine punishment worse. If I didn't need to meet the Calamity Sage to confirm something, even 10 Thunder Origins wouldn't be enough. To make me lift a finger, this was exactly why Venerable Heart-Bane had never been able to track him down before Old Man Tianji simply had no interest in helping him. The young emperor had mastered the void, flow lightning force, and then banned anyone else from even touching it, hunting down every other practitioner. It was the height of tyranny. To help them was to be an accomplice to evil, something the heavenly Tao would never tolerate. And yet, the old man had no choice but to enter that death trap. Only things like thunder or fire origin sources could withstand those toxic black mists and the cursed remains of fallen venerables. That was the only reason he'd made an exception and allowed Venerable Heart-Bane to find him. Venerable Heart-Bane fell into a tense, brooding silence. He was beyond loath to part with his thunder origin. But time was his enemy. The young emperor had given him a deadline of only 2 months. If he failed, the young emperor would cross worlds just to put him in the ground. Gritting his teeth, he produced a small thunder-etched seal. Fine, it's yours. Just make sure you find him. With a flick of his sleeve, Old Man Tianji swept up the thunder origin. A wide grin split his grimy face. Relax. There are very few people in the Taking Grand Province who can hide from me. He immediately closed his eyes, his fingers weaving through a series of complex divination seals. A faint mystical energy surged from his body and dissolved into the clouds. Venerable Heart-Bane looked up, his pupils constricting as the vast, endless sky began to split open. The rift widened with terrifying speed, soon forming a colossal eye that stretched across the entire horizon. A pupil the size of a moon shifted slowly. It was the eye of the vast heaven, peering down upon the Taking Grand Province with divine indifference. The sheer, miraculous scale of the sight left Venerable Heart-Bane shaken. Who exactly was this Old Man Tianji, and where did he come from? A few heartbeats later, the old man snapped his eyes open. A flicker of genuine confusion passed through his gaze. Venerable Heart-Bane frowned. You couldn't find him. Old Man Tianji shook his head, his expression grim. No, I found him. But it's bizarre. He's shielded by a heavenly secret shroud. I can't see his face. And it's not just one. It's 2 different layers of heavenly secrets. To find a freak like that in the Taking Grand Province, how very strange. He stroked his beard, his face etched with surprise. Venerable Heart-Bane, take my advice, tell your young emperor to drop this. I've seen those shielded by fate before, but to be protected by 2 separate forces of heavenly secrets is unheard of. The boy has someone, or something, extraordinary behind him. You'd be wise to stop poking the horn its nest. Venerable Heart-Bane's brow furrowed. Protected by heavenly secrets, he growled, and if I insist on killing him anyway. Old Man Tianji looked up at the sky and muttered, the weather can turn in a second, and a man's luck can run out even faster. You'd better pray your own providence is strong enough to survive the backlash of those 2 heavenly secrets. Venerable Heart-Bane's eyes narrowed. He had no time for such abstract, mystical nonsense. In the world of cultivation, raw power was the only truth. Providence was just a fairy tale. Just tell me who he is. The old man nodded slowly. Fine. I can't see his face. I can't glean his name, and I can't pinpoint his location. Heart-Bane's expression turned icy. Then you're talking nonsense. If you know nothing, then you're less useful than the sect list in his hands. Old Man Tianji's eyes suddenly sharpened with a brilliant light. I might not know his identity, but you do. He's been right under your nose this whole time. Gripping the thunder origin, he slapped the great azure ox's rump and plunged into the endless black haze. A massive shock jolted Venerable Heart-Bane's heart, and his aged eyes narrowed to slits. I know his name. I've screened everyone around me, both openly and in secret. There's no way anyone could have slipped through. He closed his eyes, his memories of Taking Grand Province flashing through his mind like a frantic reel. One face after another surfaced in his thoughts, until suddenly, the mental image froze at the very end of the ancient road to heaven. His eyes snapped open, and he growled a name, Fang Chen. My nominal disciple, a man whose name I knew, hiding in plain sight right under my nose. What a coincidence. His power was completely drained that day, so I never bothered to test him. Back on the ancient road to heaven, someone had unleashed the void, flow fire force. This disciple, a person he had completely tossed aside and forgotten, now seemed like the prime suspect. It's him, it's definitely him. Venerable Heart-Bane let out a furious laugh, his eyes swirling with murderous intent. No wonder he refused to become my true disciple back then. He was afraid that staying by my side would expose his void, flow lightning force. Suddenly, he stomped his foot, and half the mountain exploded into dust. A mask of pure, unadulterated rage twisted his withered face. To think you played me for a fool and tricked me into making you my nominal disciple, death is too good for you. The very person he'd been hunting had been playing him like a puppet. The realization sent Venerable Heart-Bane into a total frenzy. Seething with rage, he glared toward the continent. Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, Fang Chen, your end has come. Green Lie Mountain, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. After 2 days of intense cultivation, Fang Chen had successfully fused all the stone fragments into the 5 magnet primal mountain. Layers of prismatic light pulsed rhythmically from the mountain. Reverend of 6 Daos eyed it greedily. Kid, if Venerable Heart-Bane ever catches up to you and you're about to kick the bucket, don't forget to leave me something in your will. I'm not greedy. I'll just take this 5 magnet primal mountain. Fang Chen cut him a sideways glance and snorted. Fine. You can have it right now. He instantly formed a hand seal and struck the artifact 5 magnetic divine light. 100-foot wave of 5 colored light surged out like an inverted bowl, sealing the entire secret chamber within its glow. The Reverend didn't even have room to bolt before the light swallowed him whole. He felt every ounce of his power vanish instantly. His legs buckled and he collapsed to his knees, pinned to the floor. His face turned bright red as he struggled. You brat, turn it off, now. He was genuinely shaken. The 5 magnet primal mountain. Not only was the light 4 times more radiant than before, its crushing weight had increased exponentially. He was nearly back to his peak strength, yet he had been suppressed with 0 effort. Fang Chen withdrew the 5 magnetic divine light, satisfied. Then he weighed the black cauldron, the one he'd taken from the sect leader of Sanking Mountain, in his hand. It had been powerful enough even before he'd refined it. Now that it was fully bound to him, its true potential would be terrifying. You want this one too? Fang Chen asked playfully. Reverend of 6 Daos scrambled up, dusting off his knees. Seriously, he snapped. You have absolutely 0 respect for your elders. Fang Chen pulled the cauldron back with a sigh of mock disappointment, then held up the 9 Phoenix Court hairpin. How about this? Thanks to the 5 sheets of soul jade paper, his soul had already ascended to the Five-Aperture Nascent Soul realm. He was confident the weapon's power would be significantly greater now. The Reverend had tried to steal the hairpin once, and failed. He knew better than anyone just how lethal that thing was. His face twitched. Put that away. 1 slip of your finger, and we're both dead. Thunder crackled in Fang Chen's eyes, 2 spheres of brilliant lightning flickering with unstable energy. What about the Dark Heaven Eye? He had mastered the Dark Heaven Eye to the realm of perfection. Its power was worlds apart from what it once was. Of the 6 divisions of heavenly thunder, he now controlled 3. Only the heart of the heavenly abyss, the hell lotus, and the long, lost yin-yang heaven remained. Reverend of 6 Daos clenched his withered fists. You've even reached great mastery with the Dark Heaven Eye. You just love showing off, don't you? Infuriating. Fang Chen deactivated the Dark Heaven Eye and continued. Or how about the Brahma, holy true spirit arts? His body shuddered as 3 spectral images manifested behind him, a divine deity, a sovereign emperor, and an ancient golden bell hovering at his feet, radiating a primal, prehistoric aura. This was the culmination of his cultivation with the 2 wisps of true spirit blood, the 3rd form, known as the thick earth manifestation. As for its actual destructive power, he'd have to test it out in real combat. Reverend of 6 Daos scoffed. The 3rd form, you're already showing off just reaching the major mastery stage. If you push it to consummation and become practically invincible in the nascent soul realm, your ego will inflate right up into the stratosphere. I'm praying you never track down that hellish desolate beast or get your hands on the rest of the true spirit blood. Fang Chen just shrugged. Jealousy is an ugly look on you. All right, enough of that. I need to make a trip to the East Sea. You're going where? Reverend of 6 Daos stroked his chin in thought. I'll tag along to the East Sea. I won't have peace of mind to go looking for my daughter until I see you secure that divine ability with my own eyes. Fang Chen nodded in agreement. His plan was straightforward. Venerable Evil Crow had put out a massive bounty for a live member of the Ancient Giants, hadn't he? Fang Chen would simply use one of the Ancient Giants to barter for the divine ability. As for whether the other party would agree, in the recent clash, 3 soul transformation experts and a bodhisattva had suffered a crushing defeat. With Venerable Mantra ending up in such a miserable state, there was no way Venerable Evil Crow had escaped unscathed. Right now, he had to be utterly desperate for the Ancient Giants. He had absolutely no reason to reject a trade for a mere divine ability. Of course, this all hinged on them actually catching one alive first. Creak, the heavy stone doors pushed open. Fang Chen stepped out to find Gu Zinner pacing back and forth, her hands clasped behind her back. She wore a flowing pink dress that perfectly suited her petite frame and cute round face. Spotting him, she arched a delicate brow and wrinkled her nose, finally decided to come out of hiding. Here? She held out a palm-sized slip of paper covered in intricate, mysterious runic patterns. Fang Chen took it, looking at it in surprise. What's this? I told you I was going to come back with a surprise for everyone, Gu Zinner said brightly. This one's for you. If you're ever in danger, just burn it and make a wish. Just try not to wish for anything too crazy. A wishing paper? Fang Chen stared at it, utterly baffled. Gu Zinner's gifts were definitely one of a kind. Beside him, Reverend of Six Daos caught a glimpse of it, his eyes instantly lighting up. Fang Chen, that thing is cursed garbage, totally useless, just toss it. Fang Chen shot him a severe sigh. I'll toss it, sure, but can you swear to the heavens you won't immediately scramble to pick it up? If it was enough to make Reverend of Six Daos green with envy, how could it possibly be useless? Without missing a beat, he tucked the paper safely inside his heavenly thunderstone. In exchange, he pulled out a dragon marrow seed and handed it over. You missed the grand sect, founding ceremony. Consider this a belated gift. Gu Zinner beamed with joy, grinning from ear to ear. Thanks, senior brother Fang. Inwardly, she was cheering. Master, I finally got the dragon marrow seed. I'm going to save it until I reach the mid-stage nascent soul realm. This thing only gets more valuable the stronger you are. The hairpin remnant soul quickly warned her. Keep it down. That old man next to him is no joke. Don't let him sense me. Gu Zinner shot a discreet, fleeting glance at Reverend of Six Daos. A chill ran down her spine. What's his cultivation level? She asked internally. He could break into the 7-Aperture Nascent Soul ranks at any given moment. The hairpin remnant soul replied, and that's only because he's intentionally suppressing his power. He likely doesn't want to advance too fast and risk slipping into madness. Gu Zinner tensed. Fang Chen was already starting to surround himself with terrifyingly dangerous people. She quickly looked for an excuse to bolt. Senior brother Fang, I need to go hand out the rest of the gifts to the others. Catch you later. Flashing him a sweet, innocent smile, she practically sprinted away. Reverend of Six Daos watched her retreating figure, his ancient eyes narrowing. Kid, keep a close eye on that one. That pretty little girl has quite the background. Fang Chen stared after Gu Zinner, scanning her figure but failing to notice anything out of the ordinary. What makes you say that? He asked. For starters, that slip of paper she just handed you, Reverend of Six Daos explained, that's a Confucian technique. That wish she mentioned. That's the power of absolute command, letting words dictate reality. And let me tell you, there are absolutely no Confucian paths in the Taking Grand Province. And secondly, I can sense a remnant soul attached to her, he added, having spent decades as a remnant soul himself. His radar for detecting his own kind was incredibly sharp. Fang Chen's expression shifted into sheer surprise. This girl had joined the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion seemingly out of nowhere, and then actively pushed to get close to their Zero team. She was hiding a massive secret. What was her endgame? Fang Chen pondered for a moment before sighing. Never mind, once we get back from the East Sea, I'll sit her down for a serious chat and figure out exactly what she's plotting. Let's move. He and Reverend of Six Daos shot into the sky, rocketing straight toward the East Sea. 2 days later, at the East Sea Imperial Palace, Pearl Demon Empress's beautiful face was masked in a layer of absolute frost. Why, Wuji, you cannot touch the Mother Origin Cauldron. Are you trying to destroy the entire East Sea? The Pearl Demon Empress used her slender frame to block the entrance to the Mother Origin Grand Hall. Behind her, a massive ancient cauldron radiated waves of brilliant ethereal light. She glared daggers at Wai Wuji, her eyes swirling with absolute disbelief. Unable to meet her piercing stare, Wai Wuji averted his eyes and let out a heavy sigh. Pearl, don't blame me for this. The sect ordered me to retrieve the Mother Origin Cauldron. What else am I supposed to do? I'm just one of the many pagoda masters in the myriad phenomena void world. My hands are tied on a lot of things. The Pearl Demon Empress clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white. If you take away the Mother Origin Cauldron, do you have any idea what will happen to the East Sea? She demanded. Wai Wuji remained completely silent. If the Mother Origin Cauldron is taken from the spring, an endless tide of twisted energy will erupt. It would corrupt the entire East Sea, eventually spreading its rot to the other 3 oceans. When that happens, every living creature in the East Sea will be wiped out. This was a direct order from the sect. With the ancient giants descending upon them, every faction was scrambling to prepare for war. The myriad phenomena, Void World, had set its sights on the Mother Origin Cauldron. Once the battles began, casualties were inevitable, and a miraculous artifact like the Cauldron would be an absolute game changer. He couldn't even meet the Pearl Demon Empress's eyes. Pearl, for the sake of our years of friendship, step aside. I'll report to the sect that you surrendered it willingly. I'll make sure you and your 3 children are given a safe sanctuary. I've already thought it through. I'll have you stationed in the tower I manage. That way, I can personally look after you all. A bitter sneer tugged at the Pearl Demon Empress's lips. What a beautiful lie. He wanted to snatch the East Sea's Mother Origin Cauldron, and now he wanted to claim her, too. Personally look after her. If she actually listened to Wai Wuji and brought her family of 4 to the myriad phenomena Void World, they would be completely isolated. They would be entirely at his mercy. Once they were trapped, how could she ever say no to his twisted demands? Wai Wuji, get out of my East Sea Imperial Palace and never come back, the Pearl Demon Empress hissed, her voice dripping with ice. Forget her and her children's futures for a moment. What about the billions of lives in the Sea Demon clan? There was absolutely no way she would let Wai Wuji take the Mother Origin Cauldron. Wai Wuji's face flashed with irritation. Pearl, I have bent over backward trying to accommodate you. Can't you think about my position for once? The Pearl Demon Empress let out a dark, breathless laugh. You want me to sacrifice the lives of billions in the East Sea just to make things easier for you? Who the hell do you think you are? And save me the my hands are tied excuse. If you had shown even an ounce of resistance when the myriad phenomena, Void World, gave the order, the sect would never have sent you to ensure a smooth mission. The fact that you're here means you jumped at the opportunity. You probably even made a blood oath to get it done. Am I wrong? As the ruler of the vast East Sea, the Pearl Demon Empress's intuition was razor sharp. She saw right through Wai Wuji's pathetic lies. A flicker of panic crossed Wai Wuji's eyes. She had hit the nail on the head. When the myriad phenomena Void World issued the mission to retrieve the Mother Origin Cauldron, the bounty was a vial of Hunyuan 9, colored marrow. People had fought tooth and nail for the assignment, but Wai Wuji had pushed his way to the front of the line. Ultimately, because he was the main point of contact with the East Sea over the years, the mission fell to him. In his mind, it was the perfect 2 birds, 1 stone scenario. First, the reward would guarantee his breakthrough into the 2-aperture Nascent Soul realm. Second, he could finally keep the Pearl Demon Empress right by his side. He believed the only reason she had rejected him all these years was because she ruled the East Sea and never needed him. If she and her kids were trapped in the myriad phenomena Void World, wouldn't she be entirely at his mercy? What he hadn't counted on was her brilliant intellect. The Pearl Demon Empress saw his scheming right from the start, leaving Wai Wuji humiliated and furious. His voice darkened. Pearl, I've played nice, don't force my hand. You are just one woman, you can't stop the will of the myriad phenomena Void World. Be a good girl, follow my arrangements, and the 4 of you can still enjoy my protection. We don't need your protection. Just then, Second Crown Prince Meng Cheng stormed into the hall, flanked by his 2 sisters. He glared daggers at the intruder. Even if my mother needed protecting, she would go to Uncle Fang. She'd never lower herself to a snake like you. Fang Chen, Wai Wuji remembered how overly affectionate the Pearl Demon Empress had been toward Fang Chen back in the East Sea. Jealousy flared in his chest as he scoffed. He's just some nobody from a bottom-tier sect. What could he possibly give you? How does he even compare to me, Wai Wuji? The Pearl Demon Empress met his gaze with absolute indifference. Compare him to you. He's 100 times the man you are. Wai Wuji's expression immediately turned venomous. Pearl, you're crossing the line. You think just because I fancy you, you can act so arrogantly. I've been endlessly patient with you, yet you keep pushing my buttons. Now you're trying to use Fang Chen to threaten me. It seems I really need to teach you a lesson. With a flex of his wrist, a bizarrely shaped high-grade artifact materialized in his grasp. Without an ounce of mercy, he launched a devastating blast straight at the Pearl Demon Empress. They might both be in the one orifice realm, but he hailed from one of the 7 great cults. How could her cultivation method ever hold a candle to his? It was time to show this arrogant woman true power. He had played the gentleman for too long. Did she really think she could walk all over him? The Pearl Demon Empress remained entirely unfazed. With a casual flick of her hand, the overwhelming, crushing aura of a 3-aperture Demon Emperor erupted. It slammed into Wai Wuji, sending him flying backward, coughing up a violent spray of blood. Before he could even process what had hit him, she pushed her palm down. A torrential surge of water instantly pinned Wai Wuji into the floor, locking him completely in place. Pure terror washed over his face as he gasped in disbelief. A 3-aperture demon emperor, that's impossible. The second prince snorted. With Uncle Fang backing my mother, anything is possible. Uncle Fang helped her reach the 3-aperture demon emperor realm, could you? You want to compare yourself to him? You're not even worthy to lick his boots, trying to teach her a lesson. I knew from the start you were nothing but scum. The Pearl Demon Empress raised a hand, cutting her son off. Don't waste your breath on trash like him. After acquiring the demon soul fruit, she had pooled all the East Sea's resources to trade for precious demon emperor cultivation supplies from the Taikang Grand Province. Building upon her years of foundation, she had successfully opened her 2nd aperture. Once her power stabilized, she used the demon soul fruit to unlock her 3rd aperture. She shot Wai Wuji a look of utter disgust. Get out. Wai Wuji wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Fang Chen had utterly humiliated him. It wasn't long ago that Fang Chen was just a lowly junior in the core formation realm. Yet now, that same punk had stolen his woman, helped the Pearl Demon Empress break through to 3 apertures, and was casually stepping all over his pride. Fang Chen, he can't protect you, Pearl Demon Empress. Wai Wuji shrieked desperately. I didn't come to the East Sea alone. Our realm lord is here, too. Let's see if your precious Fang Chen can save you from our realm lord. The color drained from the Pearl Demon Empress's beautiful face. The realm lord of the myriad phenomena, Void World, had come. Just as panic began to take hold, a cool, indifferent voice echoed through the hall. Fine by me. I wouldn't mind slaughtering another sect master of the 7 great cults. Wai Wuji froze. The very next second, an apocalyptic thunder sword tore through the sky. With a deafening crash, the vast sea above the East Sea was cleaved straight down the middle, exposing the East Sea Imperial Palace on the ocean floor to the open sky. One sword strike had split the vast sea. The Pearl Demon Empress's eyes sparkled with awe and adoration. Compared to when he was crossing the tribulation, Fang Chen's current power was on an entirely different, unfathomable level. The second prince and his 2 sisters were left completely dumbstruck. Wai Wuji sucked in a sharp breath. His entire body went rigid, paralyzing him in place. He didn't dare move a single muscle. If that sword had struck him instead, he would have been instantly vaporized into dust. Fang Chen touched down right beside him, his tone chillingly flat. I thought you were madly in love with the Pearl Demon Empress, but at the end of the day, this is all you amount to. Every nerve in Wai Wuji's body seized up, making it hard to even breathe. Radiating from Fang Chen was the suffocating, absolute pressure of a 5-Aperture Nascent Soul. Swallowing hard, he forced himself to sound calm. The East Sea is a vassal of the myriad phenomena, Void World. This is none of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion's business. Fang Chen casually manifested a thunder sword and rested the crackling blade against Wai Wuji's throat. And what if I make it my business? I killed the sect leader of Sanking Mountain without a second thought. I didn't even blink. It wasn't just Wai Wuji who was terrified. Even the Pearl Demon Empress gasped in sheer shock. The sect leader of Sanking Mountain, an almighty master at the 7-Aperture Nascent Soul realm, Fang Chen had actually killed him. Wai Wuji gulped convulsively. Tremors racked his body as all his tough, guy bravado completely evaporated. He hurriedly clasped his hands together in submission. As Senior Fang, this lowly one was just following orders. Fang Chen scoffed. Get lost. If you ever set foot in the East Sea again, you're dead. Wai Wuji dared not utter another word. He quickly bowed repeatedly and fled. Fang Chen put away his thunder sword, looking at the Pearl Demon Empress with a gentle expression. Sister Yizhu, you've really been through a lot. The war with the Ancient Giants hasn't even begun, yet you've already become victims. The Pearl Demon Empress collected herself, quickly curtsied, and said, Many thanks, Senior Fang. She gave the second prince and the other 2 a meaningful look. They snapped back to reality and hastily bowed. Greetings, Senior Fang. Fang Chen looked at the second prince, the third princess, and the eldest princess, Meng Chu, whom he had never met before. Indeed, the eldest princess was the spitting image of the Pearl Demon Empress. Standing side by side, no one would be able to tell them apart. Please don't call me senior, it's too formal, Fang Chen chuckled softly. The Pearl Demon Empress's expression was complex. Young Master Fang, what brings you to the East Sea? The young man she once knew as a mere boy was now a martial arts titan capable of slaying a Dao head. Her heart was a swirl of countless emotions. Fang Chen looked at the second prince and said, I'm here to deal with that weakened ancient giant. Second prince, can you provide its exact location? Meng Chu replied cautiously, Uncle Fang, you're too kind. He took out a jade slip and presented it to Fang Chen with both hands. The location is inside. He paused, then his gaze shifted. Do you need my mother to accompany you? He still hadn't given up, still hoping to matchmake Fang Chen with his mother. Fang Chen looked towards the Mother Origin Grand Hall and said, Your mother can't leave right now. My friends and I can go. With that, he looked at the Pearl Demon Empress with no small amount of concern. Sister Yizhu, what do you plan to do with this Mother Origin cauldron? The Great Tribulation is imminent. It's not just the myriad phenomena, void world, that has its eyes on it. A reasonable sect naturally wouldn't sacrifice billions of the Sea Demon clan for a single cauldron. But if there's even one organization like the myriad phenomena void world, the Mother Origin cauldron might not be defensible. Fang Chen's fearsome reputation, gained by slaying the sect leader of Sanking Mountain, could only deter opportunists temporarily, not long term. The Pearl Demon Empress said bitterly, It's a dog world. If they insist on taking it, I can only die protecting the sea. It wasn't just anyone trying to seize it from them, it was the myriad phenomena void world, her former protector and patron. She had nowhere to turn for help. Fang Chen's face showed a hint of compassion. Sister Yizhu, don't be rash. If you truly can't hold out, then let them have it. Take what members of the Sea Demon clan you can to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. I will protect you. At the very least, I'll ensure some legacy remains for your East Sea. The Pearl Demon Empress said gratefully, Thank you, young Master Fang. Fang Chen cupped his hands. Then I'll be going. Sister Yizhu, please take care. The Pearl Demon Empress watched Fang Chen leave, unable to tear her gaze away for a long time, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. The second prince let out a long sigh. It hasn't been long since we last met, and Uncle Fang is already a towering senior we must look up to. Then he habitually grumbled, Mother, you should have listened to me. If only you'd followed my plan and gotten together with Uncle Fang back then, wouldn't everything be better? Now he's completely out of our league. He immediately shrunk back, knowing that in the past, saying such things would, at best, earn him a severe scolding, and at worst, a beating. This time, however, the Pearl Demon Empress didn't scold him, witnessing Fang Chen rise like an unstoppable true dragon, soaring into the heavens. It would be a lie to say she felt not a single shred of regret. But after touching her own face, she dismissed that thought. If I could go back 20 years, I might have tried, but now, forget it. To have met him in this life is already the greatest fortune. 6 hours later, at the border between the East Sea and the South Sea, the Reverend of Six Daos showed a complex expression. The way that Demon Empress looked at you when you left, it was quite meaningful. Fang Chen said expressionlessly, Don't let your imagination run wild. I only have respect for her. The Reverend of Six Daos nodded. Perhaps that's for the best. Unions between different races are said to incur heaven's wrath and lead to negative karma. Is there really such a saying? Then why are he and Fairy Cloud, raiment perfectly fine? Or perhaps such karma manifests in their descendants. A light dawned on him as he recalled the Reverend of Six Dao's daughter, who was plagued by illness. A flicker of worry crossed his mind. If he and Fairy Cloud, raiment, were to have children, would they also suffer like the Reverend of Six Dao's daughter? As he pondered, a faint trace of Yin Kai, mixed with the seawater, drifted towards them. Members of the great Yin sect. Fang Chen's expression tightened. But then Fang Chen detected faint wisps of Buddhist aura and numerous other unique energies belonging to various sects. The Reverend of Six Daos also grew alert, his aged eyes narrowing. That must be where the ancient giant is, right? Did the second prince perhaps make the news public? Why are so many sects here? Fang Chen wore a strange expression. No, he wouldn't. The second prince has been hoping to use this clue to matchmake me with the Pearl Demon Empress. Why would he spread the news? They must have received the news through other channels. We'll find out once we go over and check. He and the Reverend of Six Daos appeared in a flash, their eyes immediately falling on a massive, collapsed sinkhole. It was an abyss of pure Inkai blackness, utterly bottomless. Scattered around the pit were the gnawed bones of the Sea Demon clan, likely the remains of those who accompanied the second prince on his expedition, only to be devoured by the ancient giants. Powerhouses from various sects crowded the edge of the chasm, yet not a single one dared to venture down into the darkness. Fang Chen, a surprised voice called out. Fang Chen looked up, a corner of his mouth twitching in annoyance. Of course it's you. The one who'd called out was none other than the pavilion master of the Jiangshan Yipin Pavilion. It figured. Wherever trouble was brewing in the Taking Grand Province, he was sure to be found. Before Fang Chen could even offer a greeting, a cold, menacing voice cut through the air. Fang Chen, you, from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, where is our Dao head? Fang Chen followed the sound and saw a middle-aged man in Taoist robes glaring at him. his eyes filled with a cold, sinister light. His cultivation was immense, a 7-aperture nascent soul. A 7-aperture nascent soul from Mount Sanking. Fang Chen's expression turned grim. But what truly set him on edge were the two ancient ashen-faced elders flanking the man. They were bound in heavy chains, and their power was terrifying. Both were 8-aperture nascent soul titans, teetering on the very edge of madness. Fang Chen's expression was unnervingly calm. Your Dao head. Oh, he's dead. What? The words sent a shockwave through the crowd. The powerhouses from the other sects all froze, their faces masks of disbelief. The sect leader of Sanking Mountain, fallen at the hands of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. The news was an absolute bombshell. The man from Mount Sanking, the 7-aperture nascent soul, felt his pupils constrict. He growled, his voice low and dangerous, and how would you know how he died? Mount Sanking already knew their Dao head was dead. His death had thrown the entire sect into chaos. But they had no idea how it had happened. It had never even crossed their minds that he would have been killed by someone from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. After all, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was just a fledgling sect. How could they possibly possess the power to kill their Dao head and two other 6-layer nascent soul masters? They had assumed their Dao head had fallen to some unfathomably powerful, unknown enemy. He had only asked the question offhandedly, never expecting to uncover such a staggering revelation. The Dao head's death was somehow connected to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Fang Chen replied, his tone still casual, of course I know, I'm the one who killed him. A collective gasp went through the assembled masters. They were stunned into silence once again. Fang Chen, a mere 3-aperture nascent soul, had killed the sect leader of Sanking Mountain. Among those at the 7-aperture nascent soul realm, the sect leader of Sanking Mountain was considered one of the absolute strongest. His secret soul technique was especially infamous, elusive, insidious, and nearly impossible to defend against. And Fang Chen had actually managed to kill him. The 7-aperture nascent soul from Mount Sanking glared with suspicion. I don't care if you're telling the truth or not. I'm taking you down first. A spiritual light began to converge in his eyes as he prepared to cripple Fang Chen's soul. Reverend Xuanyi, the Ancient Giants are the priority. The Pavilion Master of the Zhongshan Yipin Pavilion interjected. Let's put personal grudges aside for now. Reverend Xuanyi shot back coldly. Dealing with this little brat won't take long. In that instant, two ethereal birds shot from his eyes. It was the same technique Master Xuanxing had used, but this version was exponentially more powerful, far too strong for Fang Chen's soul to withstand. With a sharp glint in his eyes, he decisively retrieved the Bodhisattva's kasaya. He gave it a powerful shake, and the robe unfurled. A sacred aura flowed from the red kasaya. It was inlaid with radiant pearls and jade that pulsed with a gentle, hazy light. A subtle scent of sandalwood filled the air as an ethereal radiance spread outward, so potent it could make one forget all honor and disgrace, all love and hate, cleansing the world of greed, anger, and delusion. The two attacking soul birds seemed to be pacified by the light they turned, and flew back into Reverend Xuanyi's eyes. The Reverend stood stunned for a moment before snapping out of it, a look of pure shock on his face. What is that thing? Fang Chen's answer was the dark heaven eye he already had charged and waiting. Two intensely focused beams of crimson lightning shot from his pupils without warning, aimed directly at the Reverend's eyes. By the time Reverend Xuanyi reacted, the crimson beams had already filled his vision. He threw his arm up to shield his face. With a sickening sizzle, the attack melted clean through his forearm. The remnants of the blast slammed into his eyes. Reverend Xuanyi screamed in agony as his eye sockets were scorched black, exposing the bone beneath a wash of blood. Yet his actual eyeballs remained largely unharmed. They were merely bloodshot, glowing a furious crimson red. Fang Chen, Reverend Xuanyi roared, his voice a mixture of fury and shock. If he hadn't specifically tempered his eyes to practice his ocular techniques, Fang Chen would have just blinded him. Fang Chen, for his part, looked slightly disappointed. It was a shame even a direct hit like that hadn't been enough to destroy the man's eyes. But he didn't stop there. He activated the 9 phoenixes sung, greeting hairpin, and with his soul power now at the 5-aperture nascent soul level, its might would be greater than ever before. Killing intent flared in Reverend Xuanyi's eyes. He produced a Dharma artifact and sent a pulse of energy toward his 2 8-aperture nascent soul disciples. The boy has that strange kasaya protecting him. Attack him together. The masters from the other sects grimaced. A 7-aperture nascent soul attacking a 3-aperture was already disgraceful enough. But unleashing 2 8-aperture titans to gang up on him, that was just utterly shameless. Just then, the bottomless chasm began to tremble violently. Thick sludge billowed up from the depths, as if something colossal was stirring within. The pavilion master of the Jiangshan Yipin Pavilion's voice boomed, "Both of you, deal with the ancient giants first. You can try to kill each other later. Unless, of course, you'd rather hand Venerable Evil Crow's reward over to someone else." Only then did Reverend Xuanyi reluctantly recall his Dharma artifact. Feeling the searing pain in his arm and around his eyes, he shot Fang Chen one last venomous glare. "You and your heavenly secrets pavilion aren't going anywhere." Fang Chen stashed the 9 phoenixes sung, greeting Hairpin, and said flatly, "Welcome to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion." With Venerable Mantra backing the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, she didn't even need to lift a finger. Just her presence alone was enough to ensure no one dared act out of line. The sea cave shook violently, and a primal, savage energy surged out from the churning silt. Fang Chen narrowed his eyes and stepped forward. "Pavilion Master, how did you even find out about this place?" The Pavilion Master of the Jiangshan Yipin Pavilion held out a palm. "Information costs money." Fang Chen scoffed. "Give me back my dragon marrow seed, then I'm out." This guy showed up to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion celebration empty-handed, walked away with a free dragon marrow seed, and now had the nerve to charge for a conversation. Friendship officially cancelled. The Pavilion Master finally cracked a smile. "Fine, fine. This one's on the house. Someone tipped off the 3 divine sects and 7 great cults. Word is there's a weakened ancient giant here, so we came to investigate. From the sound of it, you found another way in. You almost had the whole prize to yourself, didn't you?" Fang Chen's expression shifted to one of suspicion. Who tipped off the 3 divine sects and 7 great cults? If someone knew an ancient giant was here, and that Venerable Evil Crow was offering a massive bounty, why didn't they just take it themselves? Even if they weren't strong enough, they could have sold the intel to the Great Yin sect for a fortune. Why share the spoils for nothing? He grew increasingly cautious. Doesn't that strike you as a massive red flag? The Pavilion Master rubbed his chin. Of course it does. There's no such thing as a free lunch. The problem is, he shook his head, looking puzzled. The intel is actually legit. According to our scouts, there really is a weakened ancient giant inside. Its power level is definitely below the 3-Aperture Nascent Soul realm. So, for once in my life, I'm choosing to believe there might actually be a good Samaritan out there. Fang Chen couldn't wrap his head around it either. Forget it. Overthinking wouldn't change anything. He scanned the crowd. The heavy hitters were all here: the Directorate of Astronomy, White Horse Temple, Mount Sanking, Supreme Rivers and Mountains Tower, and the Myriad Phenomena Void World. Every single one of them had sent their top-tier elites. It seemed Venerable Evil Crow must have sweetened the deal. There was no way a single heaven-soaring pill would have dragged this many powerhouses out of hiding. Snatching that ancient giant was going to be an uphill battle. But something felt off. Why were they all just standing around outside the cave instead of rushing in? Since when were the 3 divine sects and 7 great cults so polite about waiting their turn? Then it clicked. Going in to grab, it was the easy part. Getting out alive was the problem. The sea cave only had one way in and one way out. Whoever caught the ancient giant would have to come back through that narrow opening. And it didn't take a genius to figure out what would be waiting for them the moment they emerged. A concentrated, devastating strike from the elites of 5 different sects. No one wanted to be the sacrificial lamb. They were waiting for someone else to smoke the ancient giant out. Once it was in the open, the person who grabbed it could use secret techniques to make a clean break. The tremors in the cave intensified. The ancient giant was about to emerge. Fang Chen thought quickly and carefully backed away. He turned to send a mental warning. "Old man, stay back. Things are about to get ugly." He looked back, but Reverend of 6 Daos was nowhere to be found. The old fox had already ducked behind a distant coral reef. Picking his nose, the old man called out, "Well, get over here. You waiting to be used as a punching bag or what?" A vein throbbed in Fang Chen's forehead. That disloyal old geezer. He quickly blurred over and dove into the coral pile. He wrapped himself in the Bodhisattva's cassock, gripped the 9 phoenixes sung, greeting Hairpin in his left hand, and held the black cauldron in his right like a shield. He was locked down and ready for anything. Reverend of 6 Daos rolled his eyes. "Kid, is all that really necessary? You're being a bit dramatic, don't you think?" Fang Chen snapped back. "Talk to me after you peel off those protective talismans you have plastered from head to toe." Aside from his eyes and nostrils, the Reverend was literally covered in defensive charms. He looked like a walking paper mummy. I'm an old man. I bruise easily. The Reverend coughed awkwardly. When it came to being a professional coward, Fang Chen still had a lot to learn from this old demonic overlord. Right then, a thunderous roar erupted from the sea cave. The ancient giant was coming out. The seabed shuddered violently as a massive, teal-colored hand lunged out, slamming onto the edge of the cavern entrance. 5 fingers, each longer than a full-grown man, pulsed with raw, explosive power. The dust kicked up by the impact made the expressions of the gathered experts turn grim. Even for those who had reached the late nascent soul stage in their cultivation, this was the first time many had ever seen a legendary ancient giant. Next, a hideous head, larger than a small cottage, emerged from the pitch-black abyss. A wild mane of black hair, as coarse and sharp as steel needles, draped messily over its shoulders. In the center of that massive teal face, a single, vertically aligned eye was embedded like a jagged gemstone. Colossal mouth stretched across its face, revealing 2 protruding tusks that curved upward. A wave of pure, savage malice washed over the area. It scanned its surroundings, and despite the presence of so many human race elites, its murderous aura remained overwhelming. With a guttural roar, it hauled itself out of the pit, revealing a towering 30-meter-long frame. Its body was a roadmap of jagged scars. Half of its left palm had been sliced clean off and remained unhealed to this day. Most terrifying of all was the ancient stone sword impaling its chest, piercing straight through its heart and jutting out from its back. Any ordinary creature would have perished long ago from such a wound. But the vitality of these ancient giants was freakishly resilient. Its mangled heart had clamped tight around the stone blade, fusing with it to sustain its undying state. The sight left the crowd deeply unsettled. They had read history books about the incredible life force of ancient giants, but they'd never truly grasped the concept until now. Only now did they understand how a body this shattered could refuse to die. The Lord of the Myriad Vision's void struck first, gesturing with a sharp flick of his wrist. 7 miniature towers suddenly materialized above the head of the ancient giant. Each tower fired a beam of condensed light that transformed into chains, lashing around the giant's arms, legs, neck, and waist. A final beam whipped toward the monks of the White Horse Temple, keeping them at bay to prevent them from seizing the prize. Simultaneously, the 2 Five-Aperture Nascent Soul experts beside him unleashed their own miniature towers, swinging chains to strike the others and buy the realm lord an opening to escape. Their coordination was flawless, clearly the result of countless secret rehearsals. But the masters from the other sects weren't about to back down easily. Sanskrit chants erupted from the White Horse Temple as divine golden light flooded the area. Soul ripples surged from Mount Sanking in a chaotic, wide-range mental assault. Iron hooks and prison chains from the Directorate of Astronomy whistled through the air in long-range strikes. The Tower Lord of Jiangshan Yipin moved like a phantom, flickering through the battlefield. Meanwhile, the ancient giant roared, thrashing violently against its restraints. In an instant, the area around the giant became ground zero for devastating divine art flares and the crushing power of magical artifacts. The seabed cracked, and the currents surged as murky seawater swirled into a frenzy. Any early-stage nascent soul cultivator caught in the crossfire would have had their soul obliterated instantly. Even Fang Chen and the Reverend of 6 Daos, watching from a distance, were affected as stray blasts of energy hurtled toward them, forcing them into a state of high alert. The anticipated bloodbath was far more intense than anyone had imagined. Fang Chen considered himself resourceful, but even he wasn't sure he could survive this kind of absolute chaos. The Reverend of 6 Daos gave a dry chuckle. Let them fight. Once they've torn each other apart, we'll step in and pick up the scraps. Suddenly, the tides of the battle shifted. Targeted by all 4 sects at once, the Lord of the Myriad Vision's void couldn't make his escape with the ancient giant. Instead, under their combined onslaught, he was sent reeling, coughing up blood. Seeing he couldn't hold onto the giant, he grit his teeth and recalled his 7 towers. Fine, you want it, take it. A commander from the Directorate of Astronomy, a powerhouse at the 7-Aperture Nascent Soul level, acted immediately. He pulled out a heavy bell and hurled it into the air. The bell let out a resonant hum that numbed everyone's bodies, temporarily freezing them in place. He seized the opening to snare the ancient giant, dragging it with him as he rocketed toward the surface. Though Reverend Xuani's body was frozen, his spirit remained unimpeded. He unleashed a secret soul technique directly at the commander. The commander's soul took a direct hit, he grunted in agony, and lost his grip on the ancient giant. The demon subduing protector of the White Horse Temple lunged forward, casting an 8-petaled lotus to shield the ancient giants. He immediately began chanting the Buddhist Dharma, its power forcing the surrounding crowd to retreat. Suddenly, the Tower Lord of Junction Yipin slammed into the lotus from out of nowhere, launching a lightning-fast ambush that sent the demon subduing protector flying and shattered his focus. The Tower Lord snatched the ancient giants and crushed a spatial scroll to vanish into the void. But barely a moment later, 7 miniature towers slammed into the space like steel spikes. The Tower Lord coughed up blood as he was violently expelled from the rift, the ancient giants tumbling down beside him. The battlefield descended into absolute chaos once again. The Reverend of Six Daos narrowed his eyes. Just what kind of bounty did Venerable Evil Crow offer? Every single one of them is fighting like they have a death wish. Get ready, they're all battered and bruised. A few more rounds, and that will be our moment to strike. After a series of world-shaking clashes, a blood-curdling scream pierced through the depths of the sea. A 6-Aperture Nascent Soul cultivator from the myriad phenomena Void World had been blindsided by Reverend Quni. His soul was annihilated, leaving him dead on the spot. Livid with rage, the Lord of the Myriad Visions Void abandoned the pursuit of the ancient giants and turned his full fury upon Reverend Quni. This left only the White Horse Temple, the Directorate of Astronomy, and the Tower Lord of Junction Yipin locked in a desperate struggle for the ancient giants. The opportunity had arrived. If Fang Chen and the Reverend of Six Daos struck now, they would have the upper hand. A sharp light gleamed in the Reverend of Six Daos' eyes. Now. But Fang Chen caught his shoulder, giving a slight shake of his head. Wait, we aren't the only ones lurking in the dark. The Reverend of Six Daos froze as he suddenly recalled the faint trace of Yin Kai he had sensed earlier, the unmistakable, rancid aura of the Great Yin Sect's Yin Corpse. Yet no one from the Great Yin Sect had shown their face. Like Fang Chen and the Reverend, they were waiting in the shadows, watching for the perfect moment to pounce. Sure enough, as the battle reached a fever pitch, a low, raspy voice drifted through the water, heavy with a hypnotic, sleep-inducing power. Even Fang Chen and the Reverend of Six Daos, positioned far from the center of the fray, felt a wave of overwhelming exhaustion wash over them. Fang Chen's heart skipped a beat. The drunken banished immortal technique from Mount Sanking. Is there another ambush waiting from them? They hadn't even unleashed the full might of their 2 8-aperture nascent soul powerhouses, yet it was far too early for an ace in the whole ambush. He quickly began reciting the jade paper, heavenly book under his breath, using its power to shield his mind from the drunken banished immortal's influence. The Reverend of Six Daos used his own secret methods to barely claw his way back to consciousness. If the mere aftershocks of the drunken banished immortal were this potent, the power at the heart of the battlefield must have been devastating. The Tower Lord of Junction Yipin's eyes rolled back as he plummeted from the sky, crashing hard into the seafloor. Several high priests from the White Horse Temple tried desperately to chant their mantras, but they couldn't hold on and collapsed. The 7-Aperture Nascent Soul Commander from the Directorate of Astronomy grit his teeth, clinging to consciousness through sheer willpower, but he was reeling. His mind clearly slipping into a fog. The Lord of the Myriad Visions Void stumbled, and even Reverend Quni's footing became unsteady. He looked toward the sky and roared, "Who dares use my sect's ultimate technique against me?" As a specialist in soul cultivation, his mind remained the clearest aside from the 2 8-aperture masters from Mount Sanking. However, despite being awake, his combat effectiveness had been gutted. Ha ha ha, the hunter becomes the prey. Elders, I think I'll be taking these ancient giants for myself. Hidden behind the coral, Fang Chen's expression hardened as he recognized that familiar voice. It's Wang Chongxiao. He looked up to see the air above the battlefield ripple. A young man emerged, clad in shimmering golden armor, wielding a beast horn in his left hand and a black spear in his right. He was fair-skinned and handsome, but his most striking feature was his eyes. They were brimming with pure, unadulterated cunning. The smug smirk on his face made his identity unmistakable. It was indeed Wang Chongxiao. Fang Chen was stunned. Hadn't this guy vanished in the North Sea while being hunted by Demon Emperor Kankiong? The Great Yin Sect had been searching everywhere for him. How did he suddenly return, decked out in legendary gear? That golden armor and spear were clearly high-level spiritual artifacts, and that beast horn radiated an intense spiritual pressure. It seemed to amplify any secret soul technique, allowing his 4-aperture nascent soul cultivation to unleash an 8-aperture level soul attack that leveled everyone but the Mount Sanking experts. He definitely didn't have these treasures when Fang Chen had searched him before. "Who are you?" Reverend Xuanyi bellowed. How do you know Mount Sanking's drunken, banished, immortal? Wang Chongxiao gave a thin, mocking smile. I have plenty of tricks up my sleeve. He raised the beast horn to his lips and whispered an incantation. 2 soul birds flew from his eyes and dove straight into Reverend Xuanyi's skull. Reverend Xuanyi screamed, collapsing to his knees in agony. The soul bird technique too. How is this possible? Wang Chongxiao teased with a grin. Why don't you take a guess? He beckoned with his hand, and 7 spectral towers appeared above the ancient giants, ensnaring them and dragging them upward. The Lord of the Myriad Visions, Void gasped. That's a secret technique of my myriad phenomena void world. How do you know it? The demon's subduing protector struggled to sit up, his eyes glowing with golden light as he peered through the deception. There is a mysterious eye within him, he gasped. It can copy the divine ability of others. Everyone, watch out. What? There's such a thing as a cursed eye like that. Wang Chongxiao looked at the demon's subduing protector and chuckled. You think being careful is going to save you? He muttered a curse, and a ghostly, eerie green eye manifested within his chest, locking onto the demon's subduing protector. Then Wang Chongxiao began chanting Buddhist mantras, and a brilliant golden light erupted from behind him. The sight shattered everything the onlookers thought they knew about the world. That golden light was a power forged over decades by the most devout Buddhist monks. Wang Chongxiao was a disciple of the great Yin sect. He'd never even touched a sutra, yet here he was, wielding the light. The demon's subduing protector's pupils shrank. He isn't just copying techniques, he's copying power. Even if it's only temporary, this is absolutely insane. The more enemies he faced, the more unstoppable his arsenal became. Just what kind of monster had he become? Well, Wang Chongxiao chuckled, I've had my fun. I'll be taking the ancient giants now. Until next time. Wang Chongxiao gave a cheeky wave with a grin. An old, raspy voice echoed from a distance. It was the Reverend of 6 Daos, still disguised as Reverend Green Crane. He scoffed, You can leave, but the ancient giant stays. Wang Chongxiao frowned, looking genuinely surprised. Well, looks like I wasn't the only one lurking in the shadows. Too bad for you, 1 person isn't enough to take me down. He lifted the beast horn to his lips, and immediately unleashed the drunken banished immortal. This soul attack was as powerful as an 8-aperture nascent soul strike. There was no way the Reverend of 6 Daos could withstand it. Even the experts on the ground, who had just started to recover, turned pale with terror. They shouted in protest, but Wang Chongxiao just sneered and kept going. Right then, the air behind him shimmered. Wang Chongxiao sensed it, and his expression shifted instantly. He realized the Reverend of 6 Daos was just a distraction, bait to let someone else sneak up behind him while invisible. Without a second thought, he mimicked the divine ability of the myriad phenomena void world. 7 miniature towers materialized behind him, firing out dozens of spiritual chains. He was too slow. By the time the space rippled, Fang Chen had already made his move. With a sharp whoosh, a kasaya flew out and completely enveloped Wang Chongxiao. This garment had 2 purposes: defense against enemies and the suppression of demons. The moment it touched him, the kasaya tightened around Wang Chongxiao, wrapping him up like a human-sized cocoon. MMPH, which one of you bastards is this? With his arms pinned to his sides and his head covered by the fabric, he was blind to the world, his muffled shouts barely audible. His only answer was a brutal swing of a spiked club. His vision swam instantly as he spun around in a daze. Thud, thud, thud. Fang Chen hammered away with the spiked club. 1 hit wasn't enough, he'd give him 2. Even a man made of iron couldn't take a beating like this. Finally, after a string of muffled curses, Wang Chongxiao collapsed. It felt all too familiar. That dull ache mixed with sharp stings. Wasn't this exactly how it felt when he was knocked out by a spiked club back at the Tiger Demon Emperor's Immortal's abode? This thuggish strength, this expert technique, this shameless backstabbing style, it was definitely the same person from the Tiger Demon Emperor's place. That thief had stolen his mountains and river's cauldron, looted everyone's magical artifacts, and then framed him for it. And now, he was doing it again. Wang Chongxiao was livid. As he slipped into unconsciousness, he spat out a final soul, deep greeting you, son of a... A final vicious crack of the spiked club was his only reply. His world went black, and he was out cold. The surrounding experts winced, the sound of those heavy thuds making their teeth ache. When they looked at Fang Chen now, their eyes were filled with a new layer of dread. This kid was ruthless and played dirty. The demon's subduing protector's eyelid twitched. The Bod Hai Cassiopeia was supposed to be a defensive tool, yet Fang Chen used it to ambush people, and it worked brilliantly. Honestly, Fang Chen had taken the use of the Bod Hai Cassiopeia to a whole new level of deviousness. He quickly pressed his palms together, chanting under his breath, Amitabha, what a sin, bless his soul. Seeing that the job was done, the Reverend of 6 Daos stopped playing dead. He ran over, practically drooling. Hey kid, I get a cut of the loot, right? Without me as bait, you'd never have gotten behind him. Fang Chen grinned and yanked off the Bod Hai Cassiopeia. He immediately snatched the beast horn. This thing was an absolute god, tier treasure. As for the gold armor and the spear, Fang Chen had the Bod Hai Cassiopeia, which offered better protection than any armor. And spears weren't really his style. He waved a hand generously. Everything else is yours, except for that mysterious eye inside him. Overjoyed, the Reverend of 6 Daos began stripping the body for loot. Fang Chen approached the ancient giant. He hadn't forgotten his main goal. Magical artifacts were a bonus, but capturing the ancient giant was the priority. His life literally depended on it. He looked at the ancient giant and frowned. Surprisingly, its body was barely scratched. Despite being blasted by numerous divine abilities during the chaotic scramble earlier, it was physically unharmed. Only its soul seemed battered, judging by its pained groans. He recalled the legends of the ancient giant bloodline, immortal against all magic, impervious to fire and water, while the descriptions were likely exaggerated. The giant's state proved it had a massive resistance to the divine abilities of the human race. If a full-scale war ever broke out, things would look very grim for humanity. All right, I'm done looting. Your turn. The Reverend of 6 Daos called out. Fang Chen turned around, and his jaw nearly hit the floor. Anyone who laid eyes upon this seed was destined to die, yet I swallowed it whole, nurturing it within me for 18 years. Fang Chen stared at the scene, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. Not only were the spear and gold armor gone, but so were the head crown, the necklace, and even the prayer beads. To Fang Chen's absolute disbelief, the Reverend of 6 Daos had even stripped Wang Chongxiao's clothes off, leaving him stark naked save for a pair of boxers. Seriously, have you not looted anyone in 800 years? You only left the man his underwear, Fang Chen asked, stunned. The Reverend of 6 Daos scoffed. At least I left him that much. When you loot people, you don't even spare a woman's lingerie. Fang Chen's face flushed red. He remembered that embarrassing incident where he accidentally made off with Mu Ziyu's bodice while looting her. This old geezer knew way too much. Ahem, you're getting old. Your memory is failing you. You've got the wrong guy. He stepped up to Wang Chongxiao and focused his gaze, searching for that incredible, mysterious eye hidden inside him. But at that exact moment, a powerful soul attack struck without warning. The Reverend of 6 Dao's eyes flashed. He whipped out a black flag to shield Fang Chen's back. Two soul, birds slammed into the flag, but it was like hitting a bottomless pit. The flag swallowed them whole. Having failed his sneak attack and losing a portion of his soul power in the process, Reverend Qiuani groaned in pain. It turned out that thanks to his immense soul strength, he was the first to wake up from the drunken, banished immortal. He had immediately launched a sneak attack, trying to play the hunter while the others were distracted. Fang Chen's expression soured. If Reverend Qiuani was awake, the others wouldn't be far behind. No time left to finish looting Wang Chongxiao. He couldn't risk the big prize for a few scraps. He immediately grabbed the ancient giant and soared into the sky, racing toward the edge of the vast sea. How could the powerhouses present stand by and watch a junior like Fang Chen walk away with the prize? The Lord of the Myriad Visions Void shook his dazed head and unleashed a secret technique. 7 towering spires suddenly materialized above Fang Chen, lashing out with chains to seal off the sky. The Tower Lord of Jiangshan Yipin was also ready to make his move. After a brief hesitation, the Heaven Monitoring Guard and the White Horse Temple also joined the scramble. Reverend Qiuani was even more decisive, casting Drunken Banished Immortal in an attempt to replicate Wang Chongxiao's tactics and launch an indiscriminate assault. Reverend of 6 Dao's expression darkened. Kid, he growled, leaving isn't going to be that easy. Fang Chen remained calm. No matter how many tricks he had, escaping unscathed from a swarm of masters like this was nearly impossible. Suddenly, he heard the ancient giant speak. The ancient giant had regained consciousness. Though its mind was fading, its lips moved, whispering in the tongue of the underworld. Fang Chen tapped the nether soul crystal in his robe. What is it saying? Hua Xin peered through the nether soul crystal, listening intently. A strange expression crossed her face. It says, you've all been played. You're all going to die. Fang Chen's eyes narrowed. Why would the ancient giant say that? He remembered how the 3 divine sects and 7 great cults had been lured here by a mysterious figure, and a wave of unease washed over him. As his mind raced, he looked at the ancient giant, and a massive question surfaced. Old man, tell me, how has this injured ancient giant survived until now? Reverend of 6 Daos froze. Clearly, he'd realized something was wrong too. The ancient giant beneath the ancient capital of 9 dynasties only survived for 1,000 years because it guarded a true spirit descendant's egg, he muttered. It stayed alive by feeding on its essence blood. Without that, how could it have resisted the erosion of time? Then, what about this one? His gaze drifted past the ancient giant and fell into the bottomless, dark sea abyss. Dread pooled in his gut. Kid, do you think it's possible? Could there be another true spirit inside that abyss? Fang Chen shook his head. If it were a true spirit, the ancient giant wouldn't have said we're all going to die. Which means whatever is down there is something else entirely. Something that can endure for 1,000 years and keep this injured ancient giant alive. As the realization hit, a collective shiver ran down both their spines. Whatever it was, anything that could survive for a millennium was no simple matter. Even worse, it was protecting the ancient giant. That means it's on the giant's side. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, Hua Xin began pounding on the nether soul crystal, her expression grave. Get out of here, now. Something is coming out. Leave that ancient giant alone. Fang Chen's heart hammered. Hua Xin hadn't even been this frantic when they faced Asura King Ashoka. He didn't even want to imagine what kind of horror was lurking beneath the abyss. He immediately let go of the ancient giant, tossing it toward Reverend Xuani. Senior, my apologies for my past disrespect. This ancient giant is yours. A peace offering. I hope you'll let bygones be bygones. Reverend Xuani blinked, stunned. Fang Chen's sudden 180-degree turn was so jarring he couldn't process it for a moment. But why would he refuse a free ancient giant? He lunged forward, snatching the giant and erupting into a triumphant laugh. The Tower Lord of Junction Yipin, the demons, Abduing Protector, the experts from the Directorate of Astronomy, and the Lord of the Myriad Visions Void all charged forward with predatory eyes. But just then, Fang Chen's warning rang out in their minds. Run, something unspeakably ancient and evil is about to crawl out of that abyss. The group looked up only to see that Fang Chen and the Reverend of 6 Daos had already vanished. Suspicion and confusion flickered across their faces. The Tower Lord of Junction Yipin's eyes darted around. Without a second thought, he burned a spatial scroll to teleport away. His reasoning was simple. Fang Chen had no reason to lie now, and if the kid was willing to abandon a prize like an ancient giant, the danger had to be real. Seeing the Tower Lord flee, the demons, Abduing Protector's eyes flickered. With a fox like Fang Chen, if he said there was no danger, he was probably bluffing. But if he said there was danger, he definitely wasn't lying. He instantly activated the 8th-grade Golden Lotus, scooping up the crowd of eminent monks before making a frantic escape. They fled in the opposite direction of Fang Chen and the Tower Lord of Junction Yipin. The commander of the Directorate of Astronomy's eyes flickered, and he decisively led his men away as well. The Lord of the Myriad Visions Void cast one last, reluctant look at the ancient giant before vanishing into thin air. Only Reverend Xuani remained, his face a mask of shock and confusion. What's going on? Why did they all run? The ancient giant, they just gave it up. As the only one left in the dark, he stood there completely baffled. Beside him, the 2 old Taoists at the 8-Aperture Nascent Soul stage furrowed their brows. They sensed something was terribly wrong. Whatever the reason, grab the ancient giant and let's go. Reverend Xuani nodded and was the first to shoot into the sky. The 2 8-Aperture Nascent Soul experts flanked him front and back, guarding against anyone trying to steal the ancient giant. Senior Tianyan, will Venerable Evil Crow really keep his word? He promised us one chance to strike. Flying in front, Venerable Tianyan nodded. Venerable Evil Crow made the promise in public. It is naturally trustworthy. Reverend Xuani's face lit up with excitement. Senior Tianyuan, with this opportunity, can we finally settle the score with the Sea and Pavilion? They've stolen more than enough of our spirit pill business over the years. Guarding the rear, Venerable Tianyuan did not respond. Venerable Tianyuan, Reverend Xuani called out again. There was still no sound from behind. He turned his head and froze in his tracks. A blank look washed over his face. Venerable Tianyuan was gone. He had been right behind him a second ago, yet he had vanished without a trace. Venerable Tianyuan. A heavy sense of dread settled in his gut as he shouted into the void. But the ocean floor remained dead silent. There was no reply. Actually, it wasn't completely silent. Through the eerie stillness of the sea, a faint crunch, crunch echoed out. At first, Reverend Chuani couldn't place the sound, but realization quickly struck him. It was the sound of something chewing its food, and the source was coming straight from that abyssal ocean trench. In the deathly quiet of the deep sea, the chewing was sickeningly loud. It was bone-chilling. What made Reverend Chuani's heart hammer against his ribs was that the crunching was getting louder. Something was crawling out of the trench. Venerable Tianyan's eyes darkened as he barked, "Undo my shackles, now." An overwhelming wave of pure ominous intent washed over them. Reverend Chuani scrambled to pull out an artifact, frantically unlocking the restraints before snapping his gaze back to the trench. As the wet crunching grew deafening, they finally saw it. A pair of legs slowly emerged from the pitch-black abyss. They were Venerable Tianyuan's legs, slick with blood. Crunch, crunch, the chewing continued. The water churned violently as a colossal, dull, gold head breached the edge of the trench. A massive vertical eye fixated on them, while a horrific moss, lit all the way to its cheeks, leisurely chewed on Venerable Tianyuan. The upper half of his body had already been ground into a bloody pulp inside that gaping maw, leaving only his legs dangling out. Reverend Chuani gasped. A golden ancient giant. What cultivation realm is this monster? The golden ancient giant hooked its hands onto the trench's edge and slowly dragged itself out. It was a gargantuan beast, 60 feet tall, with a body bathed in a dim golden hue. It was injured, grievously injured. Everything below its chest was stripped of flesh and organs, leaving nothing but a jade-like skeletal frame. Its remaining upper torso was riddled with gnaw marks, and its only intact organ was a single, violently beating heart. Yet, despite all this, it was still alive. Right now it greedily devoured Venerable Tianyuan's corpse, a look of pure euphoric bliss on its face as if tasting a long, forgotten delicacy. When that enormous golden eye locked onto Reverend Chuani and Venerable Tianyuan, it flashed with sinister amusement. Venerable Tianyuan swallowed hard. His voice trembled. "A golden ancient giant. This is the Giant King. Drop the ancient giant in your hands, now!" A bone-chilling dread shot from the soles of Reverend Chuani's feet straight to his skull, freezing the blood in his veins. To think there was a Giant King lurking in the sea cave. It might be heavily wounded, but a Giant King was still a Giant King. He hurriedly dropped the ancient giant he was carrying. Reality hit him like a physical blow. This was exactly why Fang Chen had dumped the ancient giant on him, and why the experts from the other 4 sects had bolted without a word. Fang Chen had sensed the Giant King's presence. That bastard deliberately made him the scapegoat and warned everyone else to run, everyone except him. Fang Chen. The realization sent Reverend Chuani into a blinding rage. But revenge would have to wait. Releasing the captive ancient giant did nothing to appease the Giant King. Its deadly, unblinking gaze remained locked onto them. The monstrous being tossed its head back, swallowing the remains of Venerable Tianyuan's legs in a single, sickening gulp. A slender, blood-red tongue slithered out like a serpent, licking its lips. It was still hungry. Reverend Chuani and Venerable Tianyuan turned deathly pale. They were next on the menu. Without a second thought, Reverend Chuani rocketed into the sky. Senior Tianyuan, hold him off, he screamed. He had brought 2 Five-Aperture Nascent Soul experts on this expedition as a safety net. Now it was time to use them. But Venerable Tianyuan was even faster. In the span of a single breath, he bolted past Reverend Chuani, leaving him in the dust. An Five-Aperture Nascent Soul expert might occasionally lose their mind, but they weren't idiots. Staring down a Giant King, any fool knew that was a death sentence. Who in their right mind would stay behind, and who gave a damn if Reverend Chuani lived or died. Reverend Chuani's face twisted. A vicious gleam flashed in his eyes as he ruthlessly summoned his Dharma artifact. With a flick of his mind, the hidden restraints meant to keep Venerable Tianyuan's madness in check activated. Ethereal chains instantly bound the senior's limbs, completely suppressing his power of the nascent soul. Shock and panic seized Venerable Tianyuan. "What are you doing?" he roared. "Release me right now." Reverend Chuani shot past him without an ounce of pity. "Rest easy, Senior Tianyuan," he said coldly. "I'll make sure to avenge you." "Chuani, you son of a bitch!" Venerable Tianyuan screamed in absolute fury. Squelch, the words barely left his mouth before the Giant King's massive blood-red tongue whipped out and coiled tightly around him. Just like Venerable Tianyuan, he was yanked into the Giant King's maw before he could even utter a final scream. A nauseating crunch echoed through the cave. The pair of legs left dangling outside the beast's jaws jerked violently a few times before going completely limp. Crunch, snap, in seconds, Venerable Tianyuan was devoured, leaving absolutely nothing behind. Still craving more flesh, the Giant King's massive golden slit eyes locked onto the fleeing silhouette of Reverend Xuanyi. It took a thunderous step to give chase, but suddenly a middle-aged man wearing the Taoist robes of Mount Sanking appeared right on the monster's colossal shoulder. It was none other than Elder Xiang. Or, more accurately, the Hellish Desolate Beast wearing his skin. Let him go, the Hellish Desolate Beast rasped with a sinister sneer. You have a much more important target to hunt. The Giant King slowly turned its head, fixing its terrifying golden eye on the creature. Are you giving me orders? It rumbled. Back in the southern heaven realm, Hellish Desolate Beasts were nothing more than pets to the ancient giants, lapdogs bowing to their masters. Tucking its hands casually into its sleeves, the Hellish Desolate Beast replied in a flat tone. Cold Mountain Giant King, need I remind you, who used the true spirit blood to drag you back from death's door, and who lured all these powerful cultivators here for you to feast on, accelerating your recovery. Now, you refuse to kill a single man for me. The truth was laid bare. The Hellish Desolate Beast had stolen Mount Sanking's entire reserve of true spirit blood for the sole purpose of healing this Giant King. Cold Mount in Giant King's eyes gleamed with arrogant mockery. Saving me was your duty. Commanding your master, just who the hell do you think you are? With a sickening squelch, its blindingly fast, blood-red tongue shot out and snared the Hellish Desolate Beast in an iron grip. A flash of panic and bitter regret crossed the beast's stolen human eyes. You must kill this man, it choked out frantically. You might not believe it, but he can actually move the sky-touching black pillar. He is a massive threat to the ancient giants. What? Cold Mountain Giant King narrowed its golden eye into a deadly slit. Is that so? After a brief moment of thought, the colossus swiveled its massive head toward the direction Fang Chen had fled. If that's the case, it growled chillingly, then he truly cannot be allowed to live. Miles away, Fang Chen was pushing his escape arts to the absolute limit. He soared relentlessly across the East Sea until he finally crossed into the Northern Sea domain. His face was grim. Without the ancient giant as bait, I'm in serious trouble. It wouldn't be long before Venerable Heart-Bane tracked him down. Reverend of Six Daos furrowed his ethereal brows. If push comes to shove, you still have one way out. Fang Chen raised an eyebrow. And what way is that? The Reverend of Six Daos looked uncertain. It's a rumor about the continent. It might be your last refuge. The continent. Fang Chen froze for a moment. He couldn't fathom what the continent could possibly offer that would protect him from the pursuit of someone in the Deity Transformation realm. Just as he was about to press for details, a sharp aura sliced through the air toward them. Fang Chen and the Reverend of Six Daos both tensed, drawing their magical artifacts as they narrowed their eyes at the path behind them. Don't get the wrong idea. As the voice drew near, three figures quickly touched down before them. Looking closer, it was the Realm Lord of the Myriad Phenomena Void World, accompanied by two powerful experts. The Lord of the Myriad Visions Void. Do you have something to say, Senior? Fang Chen asked. The Realm Lord sized Fang Chen up. I'm here to thank you for the heads up. You saved my life and the lives of my two elders. Fang Chen was skeptical. You stayed behind. Did you see something? If the man was this certain that Fang Chen had saved him, he must have known exactly what went down at the scene. With a grim expression, the Realm Lord pulled out a miniature tower. Before I left, I placed a monitoring tower there. The footage it captured, it's absolutely bone-chilling. He tapped the miniature tower, and it projected a beam of light that hovered in the air. Visions flashed by Venerable Tianyuan being devoured, the Giant King's rebirth, and Reverend Xuanyi using Venerable Tianyuan as a human shield to make his escape. Fang Chen's face darkened. A Giant King that hadn't actually died. A wave of cold sweat hit him. Back when the second prince had ordered him and the Pearl Demon Empress to deal with the ancient giants, long before he'd reached the nascent soul realm, he'd luckily decided to be cautious and handle it later. If they had gone back then, he and the Pearl Demon Empress would have been nothing more than a dotted or snack delivery. Then the tower projected a new vision on the screen of light. There's more, the Realm Lord said. Fang Chen saw someone who confused him at first, but his gaze quickly turned ice cold. Old man, that's the guy you said stole the true spirit blood, right? The Reverend of Six Daos narrowed his eyes at Elder Xiang. That's him. So, he's the Hellish Desolate Beast. He stole all that true spirit blood just to resurrect this Giant King. Fang Chen's eyes turned cold. What a disaster. The footage continued. The Giant King and the Hellish Desolate Beast had a brief, heated argument. Then, after the Hellish Desolate Beast said something, the two of them reached an agreement. The Giant King turned and marched away, taking the other giant with him. Fang Chen had a bad feeling. That bastard, he didn't send the Giant King after me, did he? Finally, the image flickered. The ground near the sea cave suddenly churned. A man crawled out, naked except for his boxers. It was Wang Chongxiao. He spat out a dull yellow bead from his mouth. It was thanks to this bead that he had been able to burrow underground during the chaos and evade the Giant King's senses. Wang Chongxiao looked down at his lone pair of underwear and began screaming curses at the sky. He ranted for an eternity before finally vanishing. Fang Chen and the Reverend of 6 Daos both awkwardly rubbed their noses. Old man, he's cursing you. You really stripped him clean. Kid, he's clearly cursing you. You went feral with that spiked club. The Realm Lord of the Myriad Phenomena, Void World, rubbed his own nose in disbelief. Where on earth did these two devious bastards come from? He cleared his throat. Fang Chen, I don't like owing people favors. Tell me what you want. If it's within my power to give, I won't be stingy. Fang Chen thought for a moment. I want 2 things. The Realm Lord gave a short laugh. Well, you certainly are greedy. Fine, let's hear it. Fang Chen pointed at the small pagoda. The recording from earlier, this little tower saved it, right? Can you play it back? The Lord of the Myriad Visions, Void's eyes flickered as he instantly realized what Fang Chen was getting at. He wanted to use the footage as leverage against Reverend Xuanyi. If Mount Sanking found out Reverend Xuanyi had used an 8-Aperture Nascent Soul as a meat shield to save his own skin, he'd be executed, his very soul ground into dust. The Lord of the Myriad Visions, Void, chuckled. You've got some nerve, kid, playing with fire like that. Fine, it's yours. With a flick of his finger, the small pagoda drifted over to Fang Chen. Fang Chen cupped his hands in thanks. Second, I'm asking your sect to back off. Stop making things difficult for the East Sea. Oh. The Lord of the Myriad Visions Void was surprised. He had expected Fang Chen to demand some legendary treasure, not to plead for mercy for the East Sea. He frowned. The Mother Origin Cauldron is crucial to the Myriad Phenomena Void World. You're going to need a damn good reason for me to walk away. First off, what's your connection to the Demon Emperor of the Eastern Sea? If it's nothing serious, don't go sticking your nose in other people's business. Fang Chen hesitated, feeling a touch of helplessness. He cupped his hands and said, The Pearl Demon Empress's child calls me Dad. Is that reason enough? The Lord of the Myriad Visions, Void's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He looked Fang Chen up and down in total disbelief. I'll be damned, you've actually got moves. You managed to land the famous jewel of the East Sea, and her kid actually accepts you. He rubbed his temples and gritted his teeth slightly. Fine, we'll drop our claim on the Mother Origin Cauldron. But from now on, the Myriad Phenomena Void World is done with the East Sea. You can deal with that mess yourself. Fang Chen immediately bowed. My thanks, Realm Lord. The Lord of the Myriad Visions, Void, snorted. Good luck, you're going to need it. With that, he and his entourage vanished through a rift in space. A massive weight finally lifted off Fang Chen's chest. He looked toward the Taikang Grand Province and said grimly, We need to get back to the Taikang Grand Province immediately. This isn't a safe place to linger. Meanwhile, Wai Wuji headed toward the Taikang Grand Province with a dark, brooding expression. He couldn't stomach it. The woman he'd wanted for 20 years had fallen completely into Fang Chen's arms. If I can't have her, you won't either, Fang Chen. As soon as I'm back, I'll convince the Realm Lord to descend upon the East Sea personally. Let's see you handle that. As he muttered to himself, the sky above him suddenly went dark. He looked up to see a gaunt, frail-looking old man draped in black robes. A divine halo hovered behind the man's head, and his expression was one of cold detachment. Seeing that divine halo, Wai Wuji's pupils shrank in terror. He dropped to his knees instantly. I am the Pagoda Master of the Myriad Phenomena Void World. Greetings, Venerable One. The man before him was none other than Venerable Heart-Bane. His face was grim. Answer me, are the rumors about that continent true? Wai Wuji blinked, looking lost. What rumors? Seeing his ignorance, Venerable Heart-Bane's expression darkened even further. He had tried to visit the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion on the continent, but failed. Terrifying rumors had made him hesitate to even step foot there. Shaking in his boots, Wai Wuji said, Senior, if there is anything you need, I am at your service. Venerable Heart-Bane snorted. I'm looking for a Heavenly Secrets Pavilion disciple named Fang Chen. Go to the continent and bring him to me. Succeed, and you will be handsomely rewarded. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, Fang Chen.
Why, Wuji's eyes darted around. Senior, might I ask why you're looking for him?
Venerable Heart-Bane's gaze turned predatory. Do I look like I owe you an explanation? Why Wuji waved his hands frantically. No, Senior, you're looking in the wrong place. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion left the continent for the Taikang Grand Province. They even held a grand sect founding ceremony not long ago. What? They're right here in the Taikang Grand Province. A look of joy crossed Venerable Heart-Bane's face. If that were true, he could storm the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion directly. Where are they? Why Wuji could tell that Venerable Heart-Bane had nothing but ill intent for Fang Chen, he couldn't help but feel a surge of petty triumph. Fang Chen, oh Fang Chen, pissing off a venerable, you're asking for a death sentence. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. He cupped his fists respectfully. Senior, allow me to lead the way. High above the North Sea, Fang Chen kept glancing over his shoulder. A gnawing unease settled in his gut. Reverend of 6 Daos sounded grave. You don't think the Giant King is actually coming after you, do you? Kid, maybe you should write your will right now. I just want that 5. Magnet Primal Mountain. I can hold the rest of your stash back and divvy it up among your women. Sound like a plan. Fang Chen was in no mood for jokes. The dread in his chest was only mounting. A fleeting spike of paranoia was one thing, but ever since he witnessed the projection from the small tower, this anxiety hadn't faded. Instead, it was tightening its grip on him with every passing second. At the nascent soul realm, a cultivator's sixth sense for danger was far beyond that of any mortal. Such an overwhelming sense of doom meant only one thing: something catastrophic was about to happen. 9 times out of 10, his worst fears were real. The ancient giants were coming for him, and they were closing in fast. They would likely catch up long before he ever set foot in Taikang Grand Province. Yet the only true powerhouse in the North Sea was the North Sea Demon Emperor, and his strength fell woefully short against a giant king. What was his next move? Suddenly, Fang Chen remembered a specific place in the North Sea, the Deity Transformation Ruins. The blue flames there possessed apocalyptic power. Even a soul transformation venerable would struggle to force their way through. It was the perfect natural barrier. His eyes lit up. Without missing a beat, he activated Shadow in the clouds and pushed his speed to the absolute limit. 2 hours later, the duo arrived before a levitating gateway made entirely of blue fire. Reverend of 6 Daos clicked his tongue in awe. These flames, whoever left these behind, was no joke. They had to be a legendary pyromancer in life. I can't believe the North Sea hides a place like this. But if we try to go in, it'll probably cost us half our lives. I, for one, have no desire to touch that fire. Fang Chen pulled out a small black box. Inside rested a single flame sigil, the entry token for the Deity Transformation Ruins. But there was only one token, and 2 of them. Fang Chen weighed his options. Should he give the token to Reverend of 6 Daos and try to force his way through using his nether ghost fire? Naturally, he wasn't going to just dive in blindly. A burst of nether ghost fire surged in his palm, and he hurled it directly at the giant blue gate. Sensing the intrusion, the blue flames immediately surged forward, swallowing the nether ghost fire whole. The terrifying nether ghost fire, a flame capable of making even a 7-aperture nascent soul tremble, was instantly incinerated into wisps of green smoke, vanishing without a trace. A cold sweat broke out across Fang Chen's forehead. The blue fire was deadlier than he could have ever imagined. Reverend of 6 Daos was equally spooked, hastily taking a few steps back. Holy hell, unless you're a venerable, touching that flame is instant death. Fang Chen hesitated, should he test the waters with his fire origin. Just then, the giant gate of blue flame trembled violently. Something was trying to get out. Fang Chen and Reverend of 6 Daos instantly leaped back, dropping into defensive stances. A round, orange blur shot out from the giant gate of blue flame at breakneck speed. Reverend of 6 Daos caught a glimpse of it and froze, a giant orange cat. Fang Chen also got a clear look at it, a little tiger. With its round, chubby head, who else could this chunky little guy be but Biluo's cub? What are you doing out here? Your mom is going to be tearing the place apart looking for you, Fang Chen exclaimed. The moment the little tiger spotted Fang Chen, it bared its fangs, roaring fiercely at him. It certainly hadn't forgotten this bastard from the human race, the exact guy who had gotten it spanked. But then the giant gate of blue flame shuddered violently once more. A colossal, rotting body caked in thick, viscous yin kai burst from the flames in pursuit. It was unmistakably a yin corpse, the signature horror of the great yin sect. The apocalyptic blue flames immediately melted the yin kai armor, reducing the yin corpse's massive body to ash in a flash. But as the yin corpse disintegrated, it revealed a great yin sect elder hiding inside its husk. He had sacrificed the monster to shield himself as he bypassed the gateway, diving out just before the blue fire could incinerate him too. It was a brutal, but brutally effective, tactic. However, the price was steep. Neither a high-tier yin corpse nor that dense, viscous yin kai was easy to replace. "You can't run, you little pest!" The great yin sect elder, a terrifying Five-Aperture Nascent Soul cultivator, glared at the little tiger with naked greed. A soul transformation, Venerable's spiritual pet. "Your potential is truly limitless." The little tiger glanced back, sheer terror flickering in its eyes. It let out a vicious but panicked growl before scrambling away as fast as its chubby legs could carry it. With a slap to the corpse bag on his hip, the Five-Aperture Nascent Soul elder of the great yin sect summoned over a dozen yin corpses, surrounding the little tiger in a dead end. Without a sound, the horde lunged at the little tiger. Little tiger fled the Deity Transformation Ruins, but its cultivation had plummeted to practically nothing. It was no match for the swarm of yin corpses. It let out a roar of pure despair, watching helplessly as the yin corpses closed in, before releasing one final, tragic cry toward the heavens. But in that heartbeat, a violent surge of lightning energy flashed past. Immediately, the scent of charred flesh flooded the entire seabed. Little Tiger squinted through the haze and saw that every single yin corpse surrounding it had been sliced in two by a single strike. It stared blankly toward the source of the thunder sword. There stood Fang Chen, a playful smirk on his face. "Hey, little guy, did you just wet yourself?" Little Tiger glared at Fang Chen, puffing its cheeks out in indignation. To the cub, Fang Chen was a total villain. But compared to the actual bastards who had broken into the Deity Transformation Ruins, he suddenly looked like a saint. "Who the hell are you?" the great yin sect elder growled, his face twisting as he saw his yin corpses destroyed. Fang Chen looked up, the smile vanishing from his face as his voice turned ice cold. "I should be asking you, what the hell are you doing in my house?" Little Tiger's eyes went wide. "How is this your house? It's my house." Fang Chen glanced at it sideways. "Think about it. Your mom is my sister, so what does that make me to you?" Little Tiger raised a paw to do the math, looking completely lost. "My uncle." Fang Chen grinned. "Exactly. I'm your long-lost uncle." Little Tiger pointed at itself, skeptical. "But I'm a tiger, and you're a human." Fang Chen smiled warmly. Details. My bond with your mother transcends the limits of species. So, your home is naturally your uncle's home too, right? Little Tiger scratched its chubby head. Somehow, that actually sounded logical. "Kid, you've got a lot of nerve, ignoring me like I'm nothing," the elder spat. Yin Kai erupted from the great yin sect elder, forming a 100-foot cloud of dark energy centered on him. From within the gloom, the yin corpses let out constant blood-curdling roars. Fang Chen turned his eyes toward him and frowned. "You hunt my nephew and still have the balls to act tough." Two beams of lightning suddenly erupted from his eyes in a continuous, blinding stream. As Fang Chen swept his gaze across the battlefield, the twin beams of lightning tore through the dark cloud. Everywhere they passed, the yin kai evaporated instantly, and the yin corpses within were sliced into charred halves. "Consummation of the dark heaven eye, you're from the sanctuary of myriad tribulations." The great yin sect elder gasped in shock. A deep, bone-exposing groove melted into his chest. But he didn't stop. He pulled out a black bone bell dripping with sinister energy, a low-grade spirit artifact pulsing with spiritual pressure. "You think I'm afraid of you," he bellowed. A wretched, ear-piercing shriek erupted from the black bone bell. It caused a person's nascent soul to seize up, much like the paralyzing effect of a yin kai invasion. Fang Chen felt his power of the nascent soul begin to stagnate, using his last ounce of strength. He decisively pulled out the 5-magnet primal mountain, formed a rapid series of hand seals, and slammed his palms onto it. Weapon seizure. One of the 5-magnet primal mountain's abilities was to pull in any divine weapon forged with 5-element energy. He rarely faced enemies with a spiritual artifact, so he almost never had a reason to use this power. But since the 5-magnet primal mountain had grown much stronger, this was the perfect trial run.
The shrieking bell was suddenly yanked by an irresistible force, flying out of the great Yin sect elder's hands and snapping onto the 5 magnet primal mountain.
Fang Chen's eyes sparkled. It can even swallow a spiritual artifact. Let's see how it handles the crushing weight.
With a wave of his hand, the 5 magnet primal mountain expanded into a massive peak and crashed down with a deafening thud.
The great Yin sect elder was paralyzed with horror after losing his artifact. He frantically slapped his corpse bag, summoning over a dozen nascent soul realm Yin corpses in a desperate attempt to block the mountain.
But the upgraded 5 magnet primal mountain possessed overwhelming suppressive power. The ordinary Yin corpses were crushed into dust instantly. The great Yin sect powerhouse, a master with a 6-Aperture Nascent Soul, could only strain his arms to hold back the weight. It felt as if several massive mountains were crushing his spine. His knees buckled slowly until he finally collapsed into a forced kneel.
5 magnetic divine light. Fang Chen triggered another seal, and 100-foot aura of light erupted, swallowing the elder whole.
The man lost every ounce of his strength. With one final, agonized grunt, he was flattened by the 5 magnet primal mountain. Splat, his body was pulverized on the spot.
A panicked soul burst from the remains, diving desperately into the void without a moment's hesitation.
But Fang Chen was ready. Soul imprisoning lock. Spectral chains erupted, wrapping tightly around the fleeing soul and dragging it violently back.
"Senior, we have no grudges. Please, I beg you, show mercy," the soul pleaded frantically.
Fang Chen hesitated. If this were the sect master of the great Yin sect, he would have obliterated the soul without a second thought.
But with this guy, their grudge wasn't exactly life or death. Still, just letting him go was out of the question. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed the captive soul straight into the nether soul crystal. Inside, Master Xuanxing was busy forcing Hua Xin to organize the Hell Realm script. He paused, startled, as a new soul tumbled in.
"Wait, are you Reverend Blackbone of the great Yin sect?" Master Xuanxing asked. Reverend Blackbone froze, and your Master Xuanxing of Mount Sanking. "What in the world are you doing in?" Master Xuanxing's weathered face flushed red. I'm here for advanced studies. I'm researching the Hell Realm script. Why are you here?" Reverend Blackbone let out a dry, awkward cough. I just figured I'd drop by for a stroll."
Master Xuanxing nodded stiffly. Right. Being cooped up in a physical body all the time gets boring. It's good to get out and stretch your soul a bit. Very good.
Both men were renowned powerhouses in the Taking Grand Province. Having their souls ripped out and stuffed into the same crystal wasn't exactly a proud moment for either of them.
Hua Xin rolled her eyes. Just another fool who had been deceived by that little bastard's harmless exterior and paid the ultimate price. His face still burning with embarrassment, Master Xuanxing snapped at her. "Did you finish translating today's text? Do you still want to sleep? Do you still want to eat?" Hua Xin's face immediately fell in despair. I'm writing it right now." Her glorious days of having the entire nether soul crystal all to herself were gone forever. With Reverend Blackbone taken care of, Fang Chen pocketed his spatial storage artifact. He glanced down at the pulverized corpse and casually flicked a wisp of netherworld ghost fire, reducing the remains to ash before scattering them to the wind.
"All right, that's handled," Fang Chen said, dusting off his hands. He turned around, only to find that the Reverend of 6 Daos had retreated a considerable distance, staring at him like he was a ticking time bomb.
"What's wrong with you?"
The Reverend of 6 Daos shot back. "What's wrong? You slaughter 6-Aperture Nascent Soul experts like you're butchering pigs. Why wouldn't I keep my distance?" The kid was an absolute savage. The Reverend was genuinely spooked by Fang Chen's ruthless efficiency. Taking down a 6-Aperture Nascent Soul cultivator in a mere handful of moves was downright terrifying. Fang Chen rolled his eyes. "Please, look at you. I couldn't even scrape an ounce of meat off your bones if I tried. Don't flatter yourself." Just then, Fang Chen felt a tight squeeze on his calf. Little Tiger had rushed over and hugged his leg, whimpering, "Thank you, Uncle." Fang Chen gently patted its furry head. There, tell Uncle what's going on inside." "A bunch of bad people broke into our home." Little Tiger sobbed. "They hurt my dad and tried to grab me and Mom. Mom held them back so I could run away." Fang Chen's expression darkened. Whoever these intruders were, they had managed to injure the male tiger. Huanquen and Biluo were both late-stage demon emperors. Assuming he hadn't gone mad, he was practically at the level of a 7-Aperture demon emperor. For someone that strong to be overpowered, the enemy either had overwhelming numbers or possessed an unfathomable expert. After a brief moment of thought, he summoned the flame mark and pressed it directly onto his forehead. He had only obtained his tribulation opportunity thanks to Little Tiger's soul transformation essence blood.
Furthermore, it was only through Bilio's fierce protection that he had made it out of the Deity Transformation Ruins alive in the first place.
Now that their family was in danger, there was no way he was going to just stand by and do nothing.
He would head in and assess the situation. If there was a chance to intervene, he would save them.
And if the enemies were truly beyond his power, he would honor them by making sure Little Tiger was safe.
Nephew, my friend here wants to come in and help too. Is there a way you can bring him along? Fang Chen asked, pointing a thumb at the Reverend of 6 Daos.
Hearing that they were going to help, Little Tiger eagerly nodded its head. It turned to the Reverend of 6 Daos and ordered, "Stand perfectly still." Then it unhinged its jaw and inhaled sharply. A potent surge of spatial energy enveloped the Reverend of 6 Daos, instantly swallowing him straight into its belly.
There. Now I can bring him inside with us.
Fang Chen raised an eyebrow in surprise. Little Tiger's abilities were nothing to scoff at. Its stomach actually housed a self-contained spatial pocket.
Without wasting another second, Fang Chen and Little Tiger dashed through the gateway of blue flames, stepping back into the Deity Transformation Ruins. Upon entering, the massive swarm of venomous insects he had expected was nowhere to be seen. Every last one of them was already dead. It was a chilling testament to the terrifying strength of the intruders. Little Tiger opened its maw and, with a loud gag, unceremoniously spat out the Reverend of 6 Daos. The Reverend was completely drenched, dripping with thick, foul-smelling slime. His face was thunderous as he glared at Little Tiger. "Just how much junk have you eaten?" "Your stomach is absolutely stuffed. I was nearly crushed to death in there." Fang Chen scooped up Little Tiger with a smirk. "Just be thankful he's a tiger and not a dog. Otherwise, you'd be swimming in something much worse than slime."
With that said, his gaze swept toward the far end of the plaza, where countless pathways branched out like the gnarled roots of an ancient tree. One main arterial path among them led straight into the heart of the final secret realm. Fang Chen and the Reverend of 6 Daos exchanged a solemn glance. Activating his silent Zen, Fang Chen communicated telepathically. "We assess the situation first. If we can save Little Tiger's parents, we make a move. If not, we don't force our luck." The Reverend of 6 Daos gave a curt nod. He drew his mystical flag and gave it a gentle wave, shrouding the two men and the tiger in a veil of absolute invisibility. Fang Chen was genuinely impressed. The flag's cloaking effect was flawless. Even a powerhouse at the late Nascent Soul stage would be hard-pressed to detect their presence without an exhaustive search. This old fellow has stumbled upon quite a lot of fortune since arriving in the Taking Grand Province. With this flag, their operations will be much smoother. Meanwhile, with a thunderous roar overhead, the Giant King descended before the giant gate of blue flame in the North Sea. His chest, where only a heart pulsed, incredibly began to grow a liver after devouring 2 Eight-Aperture Nascent Souls. If he consumed enough, full recovery was entirely possible. "Are you certain it's here?" The Giant King gazed at the giant gate of blue flame, a slight frown on his face, clearly sensing the danger of the flames. The Hellish Desolate Beast snorted. The little spirit beast on him devoured the divine bead of merit. "I can sense it. The divine bead of merit is inside." The Giant King nodded slightly, then took a decisive step towards the giant gate of blue flame. "Look at Fang Chen. This bro is absolutely unhinged." While legendary powerhouses are literally getting chewed into paste by a half-rotted Giant King, our boy is busy stripping enemies down to their boxers. Absolute cinema. It's not just about the loot, it's the sheer, cold-blooded pragmatism that turns the world of cultivation into a dark comedy. Watching Reverend Chuani, a supposed righteous elder, sacrifice his own juniors as human meat yields just to buy 5 minutes of life proves one thing: the high and mighty sects are just fancy masks for the most pathetic cowards. Fang Chen isn't playing their game. He's the judge, jury, and executioner who knows that in this darkness, mercy is a death sentence. If you were trapped in that abyss, would you sacrifice your brothers to stay a saint, or would you side with Fang Chen's ruthless, predatory brilliance?